In the rain, a man observes the dead mercenaries and praises the elimination of the enemy leader. He walks around the place and notices that the rookie's visual suppression technique was flawless, despite the brutal proficiency with weapons. The result would not bring shame to the team's name. Looking at the clock, he confirms that the infiltration time was within the required limit, protected by an umbrella. The woman asks her partner's opinion about the recruit. She thinks the newcomer doesn't live up to the rumors and stands out too much. Because he's Asian, the red-haired man decides to test the boy's skills in practice and advances quickly. The sudden action leaves the woman completely surprised. Wielding his gleaming weapon, the redhead attacks, shouting that he had failed the test. The rookie reacts quickly and jumps back, dodging the devastating impact on the ground. Worried about the surprise attack, the woman screams desperately for the boy. Demonstrating great agility, the boy performs a somersault in the air and lands safely on the grass. Without wasting any time, he gets up and fiercely charges at his attacker. The recruit runs towards the redhead, ready to retaliate against the cowardly attack. Drawing his knife, he comes very close to landing a fatal blow on his opponent, but the two veterans intervene, blocking the weapons before anyone gets hurt. The long-haired man assesses the boy's deadly gaze and concludes that he will not delay them. With a satisfied smile on his face, the redhead states that the boy passed the test. The woman reprimands her partner, questioning what he would do if he killed the new member. The veteran asks for calm, explaining that this was just his way of testing trust. With blood on his face, the recruit wants to know what the final verdict of his ordeal was. By giving a thumbs up, the man confirms that he has been officially approved for the team. Annoyed at being ignored, the woman complains that she still hasn't received her answer, but she quickly looks away, blushing, and explains that she wanted to be the one to deliver the good news. Without further ado, they formally introduce themselves as the Ganado Squad. The woman reveals that her codename in the Special Assassin team is Peon or Cobra. The red-haired man who attacked him by surprise is known by the nickname Cuervo or Crow. She mentions the other members of the group, totaling 7 mortal members. The veteran introduces himself as Dingo and explains that they are a special unit of the Sakari. He says that each member receives a codename that matches their characteristics. Dingo reveals that the boss chose the title Murcielago to represent the boy. Welcoming the team, he says the name means bat in Spanish. Soon after, the team sets off on a night mission to the Lamba Cartel's hideout. Several enemies are thrown from the top of the building as the assassins storm the place. The Ganado Squad descends upon the criminals, initiating a bloody and merciless massacre. Peen mocks his opponents, saying that the cartel doesn't seem that impressive after all. She trades skillful blows, stating that their basic fundamentals are a mess. Blocking a sneak attack, she warns that real assassins are watching the surroundings. The cartel's henchmen are shocked to see their comrades lying dead on the ground. Murcielago silently emerges from the shadows and slits a man's throat without making a sound. At the same time, Peen finishes off another bandit with a stab using his bladed weapon. An old henchman charges forward angrily, calling the invaders cowards. Murcielago's red eyes gleam in the darkness as he focuses on his new target. The boy twirls the knife in his hand with extreme precision and prepares for the counterattack. With an incredibly fast movement, he mercilessly cuts into his opponent's chest. After neutralizing the threat, the rookie remains motionless amidst a rain of blood. Frustrated by the invasion, one of the cartel leaders slams his fist on the table with extreme violence. Known as Mario, the second son yells at his men for not killing the intruders. Carlos, the eldest son, asks him to stay calm and run away to meet Hector. Grabbing his rifle, he promises to buy time and reminds his brother that he used to be a mercenary. The older brother warns that they are running out of time and that the organization needs a living leader. Irritated by the situation, Mario unlocks the armored door, vowing to annihilate the enemy dogs. But before he could leave, the mobster is surprised by a knife stuck directly into his chest. Murcielago appears out of nowhere, and violently knocks the wounded criminal to the concrete floor. The sudden attack startles Carlos, who turns around quickly when he sees the room being invaded by gunfire. Pien appears holding his smoking gun and states that firearms are simply better. The rookie complains about the use of the weapon, but Pien retorts that they were going to kill the targets anyway, laughing, his laughter stained with blood. Carlos warns that his brother who escaped will bring the military to destroy them. The pair of assassins ignore the threat and wonder why the mobster was trying to buy time. Dingo enters the room carrying the third brother, who is unconscious, saying that he found him on the way. Furious at seeing his brother defeated, Carlos screams as a knife flies swiftly towards him. The precise shot buries the blade in the monster's forehead, splattering blood all over the air. Corvo calmly walks into the place and tells the dead man to be quiet. The redhead scoffs, saying that he talks too much for someone who is about to die anyway. Dingo releases the body in mind that took time, because he was giving the limbs a chance to grow. Murcielago immediately contradicts the leader, revealing that Pien did all the dirty work. Trying to hide his embarrassment, Dingo pulls out his pistol and orders the team to mark the fallen bodies. He shoots at the corpses while the rookie threatens to report him to the organization's superiors. Suddenly, Dingo's eyes widen as he perceives an imminent danger emerging from the ground. Surviving his serious injury, Murillo raises his weapon and points it directly at the assassins. Without hesitation, the mobster pulls the trigger, firing at the distracted squad. In an act of desperation, Dingo lunges at Murcielago, pushing the boy out of the way. Pien reacts instantly and shoots the mobster in the face, ensuring he never gets up again. The woman breathes a sigh of relief as Cuervo prepares for any further surprise attacks. She quickly approaches the fallen rookie and asks if he was hurt during the commotion. Sitting on the floor, Murcielago finally admits that the team leader has his uses sometimes. With a smirk, the boy says he'll let the veteran's laziness slide this time. The air of relief vanishes when Pien screams his partner's name in utter despair. Corvo runs away terrified when he realizes that the leader failed to dodge the enemy's shot. Dingo lies on the ground completely covered in blood after sacrificing his own body. The boy is in shock when he realizes that the leader was shot to save him. Time moves on silently after the tragic outcome of that violent night mission. Everything is calmer now under the light of the full moon that illuminates a campsite. In the middle of nowhere, a small military cabin stands out in the darkness with lights shining through the door. The interior of the place is illuminated by simple lamps attached to the beams of the dark ceiling. Dingo rests on an improvised bed with bandages covering his serious abdominal wound. As he slowly opens his eyes, the veteran realizes he is not alone in that isolated room. Murcielago crosses his arms as the leader asks why he risked coming all the way there. The man is concerned about the team and praises the boy for destroying 2 enemy bases single-handedly. Without answering the questions, Murcielago stares at the leader and coldly questions the reason for his attitude. Dingo is visibly confused by the boy's coldness and tries to understand what he is talking about. The young assassin lowers his head and asks why the veteran threw himself in front of the bullet for him. Dingo shouts that he did this to prevent the boy from digging drug tunnels as punishment. He sighs warily and reveals that 10 years have passed since he arrived in that violent life. Throughout this time, the veteran had to kill people relentlessly every day to survive. He confesses that he lived with the constant fear of ending up thrown into a pool of blood like his victims. But despite his broken body, he finally feels free and asks the boy not to feel sorry for him. Dingo smiles and secretly reveals that they promise to let him go home as soon as the next mission is over. Murcielago doubts his condition, and the veteran explains that it will only be a simple delivery service. The boy scoffs, saying he's just being discarded, and Dingo tells the kid to shut up. Behind the wall, the veteran complains, saying that he could have dodged the bullet himself, and that the boy should have taken the shot. Sometime later, Dingo walks, injured and using a crutch, along a long dirt road in the desert. He stops walking when he hears a strange sound coming from right behind him. A motorcycle brakes abruptly, throwing dust everywhere right next to the veteran. The hooded pilot waits with the engine roaring in the middle of the empty road. Lifting his visor, Murcielago announces that the boss ordered him to get a ride. Dingo is surprised, imagining that the boss got sentimental just because of his retirement, not wanting to waste any time. The boy simply tells the veteran to get on the back of the motorcycle right away. The two then set off together down the desert road at high speed. The boy's thoughts return to the conversation he had with his boss shortly before leaving. Inside a luxurious room, Silvio Garcia asks if the newcomer visited Dingo the previous night. The Kinalro Cartel leader reassures the boy, saying that visiting an injured partner is the right thing to do. With a serious look, the boss asks if the veteran has said anything about his last mission. Murcielago confirms that he knew the final service was just a simple package delivery. One of the henchmen snaps his fingers as Silvio announces that Dingo has just left and needs a ride. The subordinate hands over a phone with a piece of paper, and the boss instructs them on what to do upon arrival at the building. The direct order from the cartel leader is for the boy to call the number written on that small piece of paper. Blowing out the smoke from his cigar, Silvio smiled, asking him to give his great friend a proper farewell. Back in the present, Dingo gets off his motorcycle in front of a mansion, thanking them for the ride. The veteran confesses that he looked inside the bag and saw that he was carrying at least $10,000 in bribe money. Smiling, he suggests that the two of them take the money and run away to the boy's homeland to look for his parents. Murcielago just stares at him silently, feeling the weight of the phone in his pocket. Dingo laughs at the situation, saying it was a joke, and that he would never throw away his retirement like that, calling the boy Lisifa. The veteran bids him farewell, asking him to return home safely. The old mercenary waves as he limps toward the guards at the gate of the grand mansion. He jokes with the security guards, promising them a nice word to get them to leave their shift early. Murcielago observes the scene, mentally wishing his partner well, and that he enjoys the end of his journey. The scene cuts to the cartel boss violently cutting and chewing a piece of bloody meat, gathered with his subordinates in the dining room. Silvio calmly asks if Dingo arrived safely. One of the trusted men questions whether the boss will really let the veteran go home alive. Holding a glass of wine and revealing a demonic look, Silvio confirms that he will definitely do it. The boss claims that the mercenary had been in the organization for a long time and had started to become too big, while Silvio says it's time to get rid of him for good. Murcielago types the number into his cell phone as ordered. As soon as the call is made, a colossal explosion completely destroys the building where Dingo had entered. The violent shockwave hurls pieces of the building and the entrance guards into the air without a chance. The majestic mansion is instantly consumed by intense flames and thick black smoke. The boy falls to his knees on the ground, completely shocked by the intense heat of the destructive fire. His wide eyes reflect the glare of the flames as he tries to process the loss of his partner. Kneeling and bathed in the sinister light of the fire, he whispers Dingo's name in utter despair. 5 months after this tragedy, a glass county clinks against the sunny blue sky. Members of the assassin squad relax by the pool of a luxury resort, enjoying their day off. Peen praises the wonderful weather and confesses that he has no desire to switch shifts with the other guards. Churvo reprimands his colleague, telling her to focus on her work and remember that they are the boss's bodyguards. He warns that military attacks have been increasing recently and destroying cartel factories. The red-haired man mentions that the tragedies don't stop and recalls that even Dingo ended up dying. Irritated, the woman swears the explosion was an accident and reminds them that they agreed not to talk about the past. Curvo doubts the official version and points out that a skilled mercenary like Dingo wouldn't die so easily. Murcielago listens in silence as his partner raises the dangerous suspicion that there is a traitor among them. Suddenly, a new and gigantic explosion bursts through the resort's facade, spreading general panic. Curvo and Pian look up in horror at the sky as deadly Debers begins to fall on them with brightly glowing red eyes. The mysterious voice confirms that Murcielago has finally appeared. A flashback reveals an isolated roadside diner in the middle of the scorching desert. Murcielago is sitting at a table in the shadows, talking to a man in a suit. The young assassin displays a dark and calculating look during the tense, furtive encounter. The boy mocks the fact that the man brought several armed guards to a private meeting. The agency director cocks his gun, stating that he needs to be prepared to deal with the boy at all times. The narcotics agent immediately questions what the boy's conditions are for turning in his own boss. The scene darkens momentarily, indicating the weight of the demands that are about to be made. The boy spreads 5 photographs on the table, each showing one of the members of the assassin squad. The first and foremost requirement is that absolutely all of your companions remain alive. With a deadly look, he threatens to kill the director with his own hands if any ally ends up dead. Back in the present, police forces storm the mansion, firing mercilessly at its security guards. The agents open fire and order the team to ignore the smaller henchmen in order to capture the big boss. The security guards are in despair, struggling to resist the advance of the armed soldiers. Murcielago warns that he will protect the boss and orders his companions to hold the dangerous front line. Silvio becomes desperate when he sees his luxurious hideout being invaded by so many armed troops. The last henchmen tell the boss to flee immediately, while exchanging gunfire with the tactical force. The boy calls the mobster to the escape route, leaving behind a trail of blood from the bodyguards. Running into the shadows, the mobster angrily realizes that there can only be one traitor among them. Guided by the boy Silvio, he runs through the long tunnels, promising to discover and kill the cursed spy. Sweating profusely and panting, the criminal leader reveals an expression filled with hatred and fear of being caught. Upon reaching a chamber filled with crates of explosives, Murcielago suddenly stops the race. Holding his weapon, the boss approaches, confused, wanting to know the correct direction to the exit. Without turning his face, the boy reveals a demonic expression and prepares an extremely fast movement. With impressive agility, Murcielago disarms Silvio with a swift strike to the dangerous criminal's hand. Turning quickly, the boy shoots without hesitation at the legs of the once untouchable cartel leader. Silvio collapses to the ground bleeding and screams in pain while cursing his subordinate, calling him a wretched traitor. Completely furious, the boss recalls taking in the street kid and accuses him of being a disgusting rat. Ignoring the lamentations, the boy pulls the trigger once more, firing without any apparent remorse. The shot hits the mobster's body again, and the boy mocks the word betrayal ironically. He violently pulls the injured man's hair and accuses the boss of coldly murdering Dingo. Facing the leader, Murcielago says the worst thing was Silvio using him to kill his own dear friend. The memory of Dingo smiling at the moment of parting still deeply wounds the young boy's soul. The killer also recalls the terrifying sensation of pressing the phone to activate the deadly bomb. He remembers in detail the extreme heat of those cursed flames engulfing his partner's body. With tears in his blood-stained eyes, the boy confesses that he hasn't forgotten it for a single day. Clenching his fists in fury, he prepares to unleash all the pain he has held back for these long 5 months. He raises his grim hand and Silvio pathetically begs for his life. Swearing that he didn't kill Dingo, Murcielago ignores the lie and warns in a demonic tone that he will only relay Dingo's last words. With brutal hatred, the young assassin crushes his target, ordering him to go straight to hell. After the brutal execution, Murcielago uses a digital camera to photograph the slain leader as proof. The other 2 assassins emerge in the tunnel demanding to know how he discovered the location of the escape route. The redhead points the gun, stating that he immediately noticed the deception because the boy was the one who hated the big boss the most. The woman is very shocked and can't believe that the boy was capable of betraying his entire team. Smiling ironically, The boy calls her an idiot and reminds her that everyone there is just a weapon instead of a friend. Enraged by the cold response, the woman lunges through the air, ready to slice her cheating partner to pieces. Noticing the danger of the situation, Corvo's eyes widen, and he screams desperately for his partner not to attack. She unleashes multiple ferocious slashes with her sword, while Murcielago merely dodges, retreating without attacking, taking advantage of the woman's moment of weakness. The boy retaliates and throws his partner forcefully against the hard ground, using the open space. He leaps hastily past the old explosive crates, trying to gain some distance. Irritated by the escape, Peen reloads her weapon and curses her companion, calling him an idiot. She mercilessly fires her weapon at the boxes of explosives. The shots hit the dynamite and cause a devastating explosion in the tunnel. Corvo tries to protect himself from the violent shockwave, while cursing angrily. Amidst a lot of smoke and debris, Murcielago manages to survive the attack. The assassin notices the flaw and angrily draws her sword to finish off her target. The impact of the large explosion causes the cave ceiling to begin to collapse. Corvo desperately grabs his partner's arm and tells her to run away quickly. The redhead yells for her to forget the traitor, because he will die crushed against the rocks. Frustrated, the swordswoman finally decides to retreat, running to save her life. Alone and injured, the boy cowers on the ground as the entire tunnel collapses. Far away, the director of the narcotics agency checks his watch, thinking that everything has failed. Suddenly, the agent hears a noise and turns around in surprise to the dirt floor. Murcielago emerges from under the rubble and crawls exhausted out of the deep hole. The killer hands the digital camera to the director and tells him to check the photos. The image of the dead boss confirms the success of the difficult assassination mission. The young mercenary claims his reward and asks if the agents brought everything. James responds by pointing the gun directly at the boy, and his henchmen do the same. The director coldly warns that the official story will say that the boy died in the tunnel. James explains that the existence of a government-hired assassin is a risk. Murcielago smiles and tells the agent to take a closer look at the files on that camera. The agent swallows hard as he realizes he has been completely manipulated by the assassin. The secret recording shows the exact moment when James negotiated the death of his boss. The boy had hidden a microcamera in the button of his black jacket. Filled with hatred, James throws the camera to the ground, violently smashing the device. The young man warns that breaking the device is pointless because there are backups, completely cornered by the threat of a leak. The director gives in and changes his stance. Murcielago then demands to see the documents of his agreement to terminate the service. Sometime later, a plane crosses the skies until it lands safely at Incheon Airport. Passenger traffic is heavy in the large South Korean arrival hall. Walking calmly, the young man reflects that it took him a long time to get there. He smiles contentedly, finally having managed to return to South Korea. Another memory reveals a private flight cutting through the clouds shortly after the mission ended. On the aircraft, James announces with disgust that he has fulfilled all the absurd conditions required. The boy flips through some files under the watchful eye of several armed government guards. The director reports that all captured members of the assassin's squad have been spared. As promised, the surviving allies were dispatched back to their countries. Murcielago merely listens to the accounts and coldly asks about their second demand. An agent hands you the valuable passport, guaranteeing your official South Korean citizenship. James regretfully informs that the boy will not be able to reunite with his adoptive parents. The last document in the file reveals the sad death certificate of the American couple. The agent says that his mother died of addiction and his father was shot by the police during a robbery, maintaining a blank expression. The boy merely murmurs an apathetic response about the tragedy. He crumples the paper and reveals with a terrifying look that he intended to kill them both personally. Shocked by the unexpected cruelty, the director freezes, unable to believe the boy's words. Feigning innocence, the ex-mercenary smiles and disguises his terrible murderous intent. James slaps the folder and sternly advises him to live a discreet life from now on. The final warning from the suits makes it very clear that the government will be watching him closely. Relaxing in his armchair, the boy promises to behave while admiring the beautiful sunset. Returning to the present, mysterious voices converse and confirm that the target is already in the lobby. At the airport, a man in a suit complains on the phone that he has absolutely no aptitude for taking care of children. He ends the call startled as soon as he notices the boy's silent presence right behind him, trying to be friendly. The man reaches out and lightly touches the shoulder of the young newcomer. By pure instinct, the ex-mercenary reacts instantly and delivers a violent blow to the man's face. The boy quickly realizes his mistake and freezes in fear when he notices that his murderous reflex has gotten out of control. But the man blocks the attack, laughing and praises the incredible agility, confirming that he is Lee Si, introducing himself as Park T-Seop. The man extends his hand, announcing that they will be living together for a while. Panicked by his own mistake, the boy throws himself to his knees on the ground, begging for forgiveness. T-Seop is desperate at the humiliating scene and begs the boy to get up immediately. The agent laughs awkwardly, guiding the boy out of there while commenting that he has very serious skills. Once inside the car, T-Seop explains that the city is more crowded than his old home, but assures him it's safe. He lists the advantages of the place, joking about drinking until morning, before remembering that the boy is underage. Looking out the window in amazement, Sifa confesses that he has never seen such tall buildings and finds Korea incredible. The Guardian praises his fluency in the language, and the boy lies, saying he learned everything by watching dramas. T-Seop is impressed with the method and jokes that today's youth is really very different. Laughing loudly, the man explains the modern slang, leaving the young assassin quite confused. Wanting to end the trip, Sifa asks how much time is left, and the older man informs him about an extra stop. The boy blanks, confused, not understanding where else they would need to go before arriving at the new house. The surprise destination turns out to be a luxurious beauty salon located right in the center of the big city. T-Seop asks the hairdresser to fix his unkempt look so it doesn't seem like he's abusing the boy. The professional readily agrees and begins cutting the ex-mercenary's long hair with her scissors. C begins to sweat profusely and tremble with terror as she sees sharp blades moving so close to her eyes. Noticing the boy's nervousness, T-Seop reassures him, asking him to close his eyes and trust them. The man explains to the girl that the boy has a phobia of scissors, and finally understands his giant hair. The woman smiles gently, asking him not to worry as she continues her work more carefully. A flashback reveals T-Seop with a serious expression, wearing a suit during a work moment in the past. Inside a dark office, the boss summoned the agent to review the unusual mission of adopting a minor. T-Seop found the sudden order strange, and the boss explained that it would be temporary until the orphanage was ready. The superior slid a confidential folder across the table, revealing the young man's alleged dark past. The false story claimed that the boy's adoptive family had gone bankrupt, and the parents had become addicted to drugs. The forged document also claimed that the child suffered forced labor for 10 long years. The chief lamented the tragedy, but stressed the danger of involving an innocent young man in their risky life. Despite all doubts, T-Seop accepted the mission immediately, stating that orders are absolute. Back in the present, the agent observes the haircut, trying to understand why his bosses got involved. He examines the frail body and tattered clothes that clearly show the signs of fake slave labor. The trauma of throwing himself on the airport floor and his always tense posture also seem to validate the story told. T-Seop even considers the boy's initial difficulty with the language as a sad flaw in his education. The agent concludes that the boy is just a broken victim, mentally confirming the chief's report. However, one sinister detail still deeply disturbs the sharp instincts of the undercover agent. He can't forget the incredibly demonic and murderous aura he felt when he was attacked at the airport. Shaking his head to dispel the absurd suspicion, He decides that it must have been all in his head. The result of the haircut is finally revealed, highlighting the stunning and angelic beauty of young Si-Fa. All the women in the salon are captivated by his handsome face. While Theseus says he could be an actor, the boy becomes withdrawn, confessing that he feels uncomfortable with his face, so exposed in that way, commenting that the hair hid the world. The guardian affectionately announces that the time has come for him to go to the light. Later that same night, the car parks in front of a beautiful and cozy house illuminated by the moon. The agent shows the spacious living room and asks the new resident to make themselves completely at home there. TZ-Op shows his door, joking about invasion of privacy, but the boy refuses the offer in a very curt manner. He then shows the young man his room and apologizes for the dust, saying he cleaned everything in a great hurry. The ex-assassin smiles in wonder and emotionally thanks everyone for finally having a room to himself. TZ-Op smiles with relief and says he's very happy to hear that. He suggests that the boy rest from the long journey, and the young man bows in thanks, but as soon as the man turns his back, Si-Fa's innocent expression changes completely. The young assassin analyzes the guard and deduces that he is part of a government agency. He also notes from the solitary behavior that the man must be single or divorced. Recalling the incident at the airport, the boy concludes that he knows how to hide his presence very well. Si-Fa mentally realizes that the defensive instincts of that man are those of a normal person. TZ-Op suddenly turns around and asks if the new resident needs to use the bathroom. The boy quickly resumes his mask of innocence and wishes everyone a good night with a broad smile, without suspecting anything. The agent smiles back and wishes him a good night's sleep. As he closes the bedroom door, Si-Fa sighs, exhausted from having to pretend to be a harmless idiot. He bends down and calmly begins to empty his small travel backpack onto the bedroom floor. Among the clothes, the boy finds a mysterious note with an address in the city of Seal. He remembers a woman in a suit he recently met during the signing of the agreement. The assassin clutches the paper with his target's name on it, revealing a focused and deadly gaze. The following morning, TZ-Op leaves a simple coffee and a note saying he will arrive very late. The officer also left money and some flyers for the boy to ask for food if he got hungry. He recalled asking the boy if he knew how to order food by phone before leaving home. After the friendly farewell, the young man confirmed that he knew how to take care of himself at home. Walking down the street, the officer sighs wearily, stating that taking care of teenagers is a lot of work, but he feels relieved believing that the boy is perfectly safe and well cared for there. Far away, Sophie observes the city's activity and decides that the time has come to act stealthily. The scene changes to a bustling commercial building that houses a mysterious repair shop. Establishment has a small golden plaque of honor with the name of the workshop called Angry. Inside, a chubby man eats pasta while mocking someone for still believing in love. Another bald employee asks why the boss was suddenly talking about taking care of children. The man in the red suit chews his food and replies that he is talking precisely about them. Suddenly, the chubby boy stops chewing when he notices a strange presence standing in the doorway. Si-Fa appears wearing a dark hood and mask, while the boss announces that the store is closed. Ignoring the warning, the boy praises the clean office. Because he expected to find a dirty basement, the boss gets up angrily, ordering the kid to leave. But Si-Fa only asks about him. The young man walks around the place saying that he clearly heard someone talking on a cell phone. Completely furious at the intrusion, the boss grabs the boy's shoulder to forcibly remove him. But before he could react, the young assassin moved incredibly fast. Like a blur, Si-Fa grabs the aggressive man's wrist and twists it with impressive brute force. Using his own momentum, he violently throws the boss over his own shoulder. The chubby henchman watches the scene, completely shocked, as the noodles fall from his open mouth. Without wasting any time, the intruder kicks the heavy bowl of food directly into the face of the startled employee. The bald henchman tries to take advantage of the distraction and stealthily attacks the boy from behind. Keeping calm, Sifa skillfully dodges all of the swift punches from his very enraged opponent. Then he brutally counterattacks with a devastating kick, shattering the enemy's knee. The bald man collapses to the ground screaming in agony while clutching his severely injured leg. Right after, Sifa finishes off the chubby guy with a flawless choking strike that leaves him breathless. The killer coldly warns that if they make any more noise, he will rip out their vocal cords. He also threatens to cut their tendons while the knocked-out boss lies agonizing on the smooth floor, breaking a small chopstick in half. The boy stares at the defeated mobster, awaiting his final choice. In a nearby room, the real boss cowers on the floor, terrified by the violent and swift invasion. Sweating profusely, the woman tries to guess whether the speedy assassin was sent by her husband or the police. Hearing the boy call her in a sadistic way, she realizes that the only viable way out is to escape through the window. Desperate for her life, the woman runs through the corridors trying to escape at all costs. Sifa intercepts the woman and asks, in a threatening tone, where she thinks she is going. The crime boss freezes and grinds her teeth, sensing the imminent danger before the assassin. In an act of desperation, she pulls out an electric taser and tells the boy not to come near. Sifa easily dodges, grabs her arm, and calls her by the codename Black Santa. The boy then takes off his glasses, revealing his face, and announces that he is the famous Black Santa. The woman recognizes him immediately and is completely astonished that he is her main client. A flashback reveals how the angry Gung's humble repair shop began to grow. The three criminals are shown fawning over the hooded boy while serving him snacks. The boss regrets the initial rudeness and assures the gang will bring the information very quickly. In the past, the monster in the red suit asked who that rich kid was. The woman explained that it all started 5 months ago, during a very difficult time. At that time, the agency was drowning in fines for accepting a case that went wrong. The serious mistake destroyed the small office and brought them all to the brink of total bankruptcy. That's when they received a mysterious email from a sender called Black Santa. The team initially considered rejecting the proposal because the client was hiding in anonymity, but the mysterious Black Santa proved his power by hacking systems and discovering their secrets. The deciding factor in accepting the job was the advance payment of $10,000. The first mission required absolute silence and contained serious threats in case of failure. Despite the dangerous conditions, the team accepted the job and swore loyalty to the client. Since then, the services have continued, and the payments have always been extremely generous. The gang even created a small shrine to thank and pray for the blessed Black Santa. Going back to the moment when Sifa visited the gang, the woman confesses that she was disappointed. She admitted she hadn't imagined that her great benefactor was just such an arrogant teenager. Currently, the woman hands over a dossier complaining that it was very difficult to find the person. She reveals that the target is a member of the underworld, and that she even had to hack into the Yakuza's systems. The young assassin's eyes widen in astonishment at the dangerous information in the document. Noticing the intense reaction, the informant asks worriedly if there is something wrong with the dossier. Emanating a strong murderous aura, the boy shows the photo and orders it to be taken to the woman. The scene cuts to late afternoon, showing imposing skyscrapers under an orange sky. In one of the apartments, the mysterious target smokes while relaxing in bed with a muscular man. The tattooed boy sleeps next to her, while the young woman distractedly fiddles with her cell phone. She reads her daily horoscope, which curiously predicts a reunion from the past that night. With a nostalgic and mysterious smile, the woman wonders if her prince will come to save her. Outside the angry gang, the mobster in the red suit announces that they are ready. Inside the car, the gang leader questions whether Sifa really intends to go to the woman alone. She warns that the target is located in a sophisticated commercial building and security is very tight. The woman also mentions that thugs from the Sadupa Union watch over the floor 24 hours a day. Moreover, the target is none other than the girlfriend of one of the high ranking executives of the dangerous faction. Trying to avoid a disaster, she suggests that the boy find another way to approach the target. Ignoring the warning, the boy reaches out and takes all the payment money back. Right after, he slams the van door shut, leaving the gang members speechless. Through the crack in the window, Fa says his real name and tells them to answer when he calls. Completely terrified, the gang members agree to obey without question. In the car, the leaders discuss the danger and comment on the insane look on the boy's face. They find it very strange that a powerful young man would use the underworld to search for someone. The fact that the target is linked to the mafia raises serious suspicions about Fa's intentions. The gang concludes that the boy is not just searching, but seeking revenge. At night, the neon lights of the commercial signs begin to illuminate the busy streets. Several people stroll leisurely, enjoying the vibrant nightlife in the city. On a corner near the Target building, the mobster's girlfriend calmly smokes a cigarette. On the street, young Nayuni calmly lights her cigarette. A man in a suit approaches, flirting and asking about business. She stares at him with disgust, ordering him to take his dirty hands off her immediately. Suddenly, the abuser's wrist is grabbed forcefully, and he is startled. Two enormous thugs appear, telling the man to be careful when speaking to the boss. The man in the suit recoils in terror as the henchman threatens to cut out his tongue. Uni tells them to let the man go just because he gave her fire. The thugs warn him to know his place. While the woman walks away, she walks to the entrance of the trendy KD club, escorted by her guards. Inside, the employees revere her on a night that promises to be eventful. One of the henchmen announces that he is leaving and asks his partner to take care of everything. The guard who stayed noticed a hooded figure lurking in the hallway, hidden in the shadows. Fa observes the surroundings using a dark mask. In the bathroom, another security guard grumbles about the hard work on the night shift. The man hears a strange noise and turns his face, confused, to investigate. He finds some banknotes scattered on the floor and doesn't understand anything. Taking advantage of the distraction, Fa jumps from the top of the cabin to attack the guard. After knocking down his target, the young assassin searches the fallen man's wallet. He deduces that such a secret place would require a special access card. Your suspicions are confirmed when you find the club's magnetic pass. In the main hall, several important guests celebrate together. A smiling employee guides the VIP group through the luxurious corridors of the venue. They stop in front of a large angel statue that hides a secret passage. The guard receives a tip and grants entry to the most exclusive room. The heavy, camouflaged door opens, revealing the luxurious and exclusive environment. The customers laugh excitedly, while the security guard thanks them for the good payment. In the security room, the guards monitor the arrival of important guests. They complain about the noise from the rich old people until they notice something strange on the screen. A different man appears on camera, talking to one of the employees. The security guard recognizes the individual and points out that he was not on the guest list. The partner says they don't need to notify the boss because they will have a separate meeting. Far away, Uni looks at her cell phone and displays a look of complete surprise. She rushes out of her office and orders her guard to keep watch. The security guard finds her behavior strange and soon notices a malfunction in the monitors. The cameras at the VIP entrance lose signal, and one of the guards decides to check the area. He angrily opens the door, warning that the boss would kill them if there were any problems. With glowing red eyes, Fa fiercely advances from the shadows toward him. The ex-mercenary lands a brutal punch directly on the face of the distracted security guard, gaining momentum with his feet. The boy launches into his next devastating attack. He lands a crushing flying knee to the stunned mobster's face. The other white-haired guard pulls out a knife in panic upon seeing the intrusion. With quick reflexes, Fa grabs a remote control that was on the living room table. The young man throws the object with absurd force towards the armed enemy. The violent impact shatters the control and severely injures the henchman's hand. Fa leaps high onto the table to continue his relentless combo. The henchman's knife flies away, leaving the criminal completely unarmed. The assassin falls, stopping with full force on the knee of his desperate opponent. The guard screams in pain, his eyes wide, feeling his leg being broken. He collapses to the ground bleeding and cursing from the extreme agony of the perfect blow. Saifa points the fallen knife at his throat, threatening to kill him if he doesn't shut up. Facing the fallen henchman, the young assassin demands to know where the mobster's wife went. The man reveals the location, forcing Sifa to enter and follow the corridor of statues. Guided by the information, the boy hurries up the building's stairs to the rooftop. He abruptly opens the large security door, completely ignoring the warning sign. In the secluded back of the place, Uni hides, smoking a cigarette near the trash cans. The woman swallows hard as she sees the mysterious and frightening hooded figure approaching. The boy silently emerges from the shadows of the trash can, apologizing for interrupting recess. With a macabre smile, he asks if she gave birth exactly 17 years ago. Uni senses the danger and panics, cautiously backing away from him with each step. Downstairs, the thuds in suits can't get through to the security guard on the radio. The supervisor arrives angrily, banging on the door, irritated by the team's slow response. The boss enters cursing and realizes, confused, that his partner is not at the bathroom station. He hears a muffled groan and quickly turns towards the last occupied cabin. The monster opens the door suspiciously, imagining that the guard must be using drugs. He is shocked to find his partner lying in a pool of blood. Terrified by the scene, the supervisor runs to the central monitoring station yelling for his brother. He finds the security team overwhelmed and tries to understand who committed the massacre. The chief orders that the wounded be rescued and reinforcements be called from the entire area immediately. The leader of the guards shivers, fearing for his own life if the big boss finds out. While chaos unfolds behind the scenes, Uni denies the question and laughs at the boy's statement. Sifa just stares at her in absolute silence, her eyes gleaming beneath her hood. The intimidating gaze makes the woman tremble. Feeling an overwhelming, murderous pressure, she starts sweating, wondering how that violent individual managed to find her place. Analyzing her fearful face, the young assassin slowly lets all his hatred escape. He mentally questions why that high-ranking executive would be with the woman who abandoned him. A painful flashback shows little C for being beaten on the ground by thugs in the past. The scene reveals his adoptive parenting and smoking drugs while he was being beaten by others. The boy recalls living through a true hell, surrounded by a lot of violence. In his worst nightmares, the darkness always whispered to him to kill before being killed. However, young Fa was too weak to withstand the men's strong attacks. Everything changed the day the frightened boy was dragged by the arm down the dirty street. His own adoptive parents, blinded by their addiction to money, sold the boy without hesitation. Childhood betrayal forced the young man to fight for his life in deadly training camps. Faced with certain death, he had to sell his own soul to the devil to become powerful. The recruit ruthlessly crushed other young trainees. In order to survive the training, he fought with demonic fury and achieved brutal victories in the dirty fights within the cells. The only thing that gave the lonely boy strength was his deep hatred and desire for revenge. Back in the present, the security leader violently opens the emergency stairwell door. The security guards find the mysterious hooded man blocking the small, illuminated exit. Wielding knives and batons, dozens of enraged union members rush towards the staircase. The chief steps forward, demanding that he surrender while there is still time, and points his greatsword. Calmly, the boy turns his back and begins to descend the concrete steps with light steps. The attitude pleases the leader, ensuring that the boy can return home if he obeys the rules. However, the calm reaction was feigned, as the boy suddenly turned around and came in possession of a lethal knife. Sifa's murderous eyes send a terrible chill down the spine of the leader, who is surprised by the attack. The ex-mercenary advances, cutting through the first security guards before even giving them a chance to defend themselves. One of the henchmen hauls in extreme pain, falling and painting the stairwell walls with fresh blood. Blind with rage and without pity, a burly henchman raises a very heavy wooden stick. Fa dodges the blow with extreme precision and uses all her speed to cut through the air with a clean cut. The young man plunges the entire blade straight into the big man's eye, who screams. Choking, the boy pulls the knife from the big man's body, spreading fresh blood through the air. The remaining henchmen are terrified, because they can't even see his movements. Standing amidst the bodies, Fa challenges them all to attack at once. With a terrifying look, the hooded boy warns the henchman that he has no time to lose. While the fight was happening, Uni complained to herself, thinking she was being blackmailed. A little while ago, she was walking briskly down the hallway, annoyed by 16 missed calls. The woman is suddenly startled when she accidentally bumps into someone on the path. She finds a bald, half-naked boss accompanied by another girl in the club's hallway. Uni severely reprimands her colleague for not paying attention and remaining alert. Entering the security room, the woman tries to understand where the twin guards have gone. She looks at the monitors and realizes with frustration that the screens are completely blank. Suddenly, the woman is surprised when someone throws a cell phone directly onto her desk. Uni screams in terror and demands to know how that bloodied intruder got in there. She tries to maintain her composure and tells the boy to leave, while he still has a chance to escape. The killer simply ignores the warning, while the woman says her men will arrive soon. But Fa soon reveals that she has already left all of her bodyguards nearly dead on the floor. Shocked, Uni questions whether he did all that knowing she is the wife of an executive. She demands to know why the boy is digging into her past and what he wants with the boss. The young man slowly lowers his mask and smiles, ironically, when asked who he is, showing his blood-stained face. Fa grimly warns that he is someone who fixes things. Outside the club, a black luxury car parks abruptly at the entrance. A man dressed elegantly exits the vehicle, displaying great haste and authority. The muscular man is puzzled by the complete absence of staff at the club's reception. Furious, Executive Jang Daeho demands to know where the hell all his henchmen have gone. The mafia leader walks through the empty lobby, growing increasingly irritated by the lack of security. He finds a frightened waiter and shouts, ordering everyone back to their posts. Jang grabs the employee by the collar, demanding an explanation for this complete abandonment. In a panic, the poor employee explains that all the guards ran to the VIP area of the club. The executive glares at him angrily, warning that ignorance doesn't justify standing there. Jang throws the waiter to the ground and demands to know the whereabouts of Uni and the twin bodyguards. Losing his patience, the monster takes off his jacket, preparing to resolve the situation alone. He orders the employee to absolutely not allow anyone into the restricted area. Suspecting a targeted invasion, the executive vows to beat the perpetrator to death, but he is interrupted by Detective Kim, who mocks his threats in an ironic tone. The police officer says he is there precisely to check on the problems that occurred in the VIP area. Smiling maliciously, the corrupt man changes the subject and demands they settle their accounts. Jang turns cold and tries to apologize, stating that he is in a great hurry due to the problem. The detective stops him from leaving by placing his hand firmly on the desperate monster's chest. Kim shoots a menacing look, questioning if he doesn't understand the risk of that visit. The police officer threatens to make a dangerous call, leaving the executive completely terrified. With no way out, Jang bows in total submission and apologizes to the corrupt police officer. He offers to escort him to the office, while Kim complains about his rudeness. The detective reminds him not to get the large amount of money from the bride wrong. Secretly, the executive curses the situation, frustrated by that terrible timing of the billing. Back in the security room, Uni seems confused, not understanding the boy's true intentions. Staring coldly at her, Safa reveals herself to be the child she abandoned 17 years ago. Extremely nervous, the woman touches her forehead and insists that this is impossible. Looking at her with disdain, She shocks the young man by revealing that she is not actually his mother. She claims she's only a mother on paper, while the boy grinds his teeth, telling her not to lie. Before the woman can react, the young assassin suddenly points his sharp knife at her neck. The killer demands that she tell the whole truth before he kills her right there. Terrified by the blade at her neck, Yuni insists she's not lying and decides to tell about her past. She recalls that she was just a minor when she became pregnant and needed to seek medical attention at a hospital. The girl moved several times before ending up hospitalized in a very isolated rural hospital. Yuni reveals that she met his real mother there, and they became friends because they were the only patients. The woman describes the boy's mother as an incredibly kind and very good-hearted person. She recounts that that kind woman stayed by her side, offering support throughout her difficult labor. When Yuni's baby passed away days later, the woman lovingly comforted her as if she were family. But one day before the discharge, the mysterious woman disappeared, asking Yuni to raise the child in her place. The woman confronts the young killer, revealing that he was that small abandoned baby. She swears she tried to raise him, but couldn't support a child as she was just a young minor. Yuni cries, saying that in the end she had no choice but to leave him at an orphanage. The woman desperately apologizes for abandoning him, blaming the difficult circumstances of her youth. Suddenly, the boy lunges forward and grabs the woman's neck with extreme violence. He throws the mobster brutally to the ground while she screams in terror. Immobilized and terrified, Yuni breathlessly asks what he thinks he's doing. Si-Fa tells her to shut up and warns her that his cruel childhood taught him to spot lies instantly. Desperate, Yuni insists she's telling the truth while the boy presses her even harder against the floor. The killer questions why such a good woman would leave her own child with a girl who lost her baby. With a grim look, Si-Fa warns that she will piece together that false story for her. He deduces that Yuni desperately needed a child to extort money from a man. A memory shows young Yuni staring at the small baby with a very sinister look. The boy accuses Yuni of deceiving his mother by promising to take care of the baby only to use the child. Believing the lie, the real mother handed over her son and probably all the money she still had. But the plan failed miserably, and Yuni ended up being rejected by the man anyway. Without family and with the baby becoming a useless burden, she simply discarded him at some random orphanage. Yuni shouts, denying everything, but Si-Fa warns that she will find out the rest of the story directly from the source. Pressuring the woman, he demands to know the mother's name and the exact location of that hospital. Crying, Yuni says she only remembers the surname Sun and that the hospital in Mopo was already closing at that time. Having listened enough, the young mercenary drops his bloodied knife on the ground. He gets up and turns his back, leaving the woman confused by his sudden departure. Gathering courage, Yuni shouts, threatening that the Sadupa organization will hunt him down to hell for this. Si-Fa stops walking and warns that she is not leaving because she is afraid of her henchmen. The boy stares coldly at her, saying that he's only letting her live for her own good. Without saying anything more, the young assassin reaches for the doorknob to leave. Suddenly, the door opens, revealing the imposing figure of Executive Jang blocking the exit. The mafia leader's eyes widen in shock at the chaos in the security room. Jang sees the woman lying on the ground with a knife and demands to know what the hell happened there. Sweating nervously, Yuni desperately tries to come up with an excuse for the whole situation. Taking advantage of the distraction, Si-Fa silently hides in the shadows behind the open door. The woman pretends to have fainted and says she just woke up without understanding anything that happened. From his hiding place, the young man observes how she manages to lie with frightening ease. The executive demands to know where the other guards are, and Si-Fa sneaks away down the corridor. Yuni cries, stating that some lunatics simply invaded the place and attacked her out of nowhere. Realizing the blatant lie, the monster delivers a brutal slap to the woman's face. The violent impact throws Yuni back to the ground, exposing the crime boss's relentless fury. Jang snaps his fingers, telling her to stop talking nonsense because she doesn't understand the seriousness of the situation. The executive threatens to beat her up, unaware that the masked assassin is already back right behind him. Fa crushes a small object in his hand, preparing a surprise attack against the big mobster. Before the leader could do anything, he is surprised by the boy's voice calling him. Suddenly appearing, the boy rushes forward furiously and warns that the mobster is the one who needs a beating. The powerful punch lands squarely, spreading a cloud of fresh blood across the ceiling of the room. With her red eyes blazing intensely, Fa retreats immediately after the devastating impact, holding the knife in his bare hands. The executive smiles maniacally and praises his courage. The two fighters quickly jump back to gain a safe distance from each other with a sadistic grin on his face. The big guy advances again, wanting to test the kid's strength. They engage in a brutal confrontation, exchanging numerous punches and blocks at high speed. The monster plants his foot firmly on the ground, preparing an attack with all his physical strength. Gaining a lot of momentum, the executive unleashes an extremely powerful, high kick. Demonstrating great agility, the young assassin performs a backflip, dodging the fatal blow. The mobster turns around confused when he suddenly hears his opponent's arrogant taunts. Jang froze in terror as he realized, shocked, that the boy had pulled out the knife during the perfect jump. Without wasting any time, the ex-mercenary delivers a crushing spinning kick straight to the man's face. The executive spits up a lot of blood and grinds his teeth, completely enraged by the unbearable pain. Taking advantage of the situation, Fa violently grabs the hair of the enemy syndicate's big leader. The young man pulls the man's head back and coldly orders him to stand completely still, brandishing his lethal knife. The boy warns menacingly that he will kill the mobster if he moves. In a fraction of a second, Fa unleashes a brutal sequence of merciless cuts across the target's body. The sharp blade tears through the executive's flesh, causing the man to scream in extreme agony across the room. Completely covered in blood, Jang collapses violently backward, hitting the ground very hard. Watching everything from the ground, Uni is in shock, unable to believe that such a quick defeat. The woman stares at the imposing boy, wondering how a mere young man could have become so monstrous. Fa warns that the wounded man will die in a few minutes, and leaves the difficult final choice in her hands. The killer tells her to consider this a great parting gift for having raised him. But when the boy turns his back to leave, the woman shouts, asking him to wait there. While the young man stares at her confused, Uni warns him that he only misunderstood one detail of the story. A memory shows the fugitive mother desperately handing over the baby and stating that she was being hunted. Uni recalls that the mysterious woman offered a huge sum of money as payment. In the past, the frightened girl had no one to turn to and was forced to accept that tempting offer. Uni says that everyone abandoned her shortly afterwards, and that abundant money unfortunately ran out quickly. Watching the baby being taken away by another man, Uni reveals that she had no choice but to abandon him. Back in the present, the woman stares at the ground crying and sincerely asks the boy for forgiveness. The young man asks who was hunting the woman, and Uni swears she never knew. For her own protection, the mobster says that her mother only left him behind with a lot of love to ensure that he would stay alive. Absorbing that intense as revelation, Fa slowly walks towards the exit without saying anything more. Still lying on the blood-stained floor, the woman simply thanks him with great sadness in her voice. The scene suddenly changes, showing the street illuminated by the moon and surrounded by several small houses. The young man walks alone in the dark, frustrated after discovering those harsh and bitter truths. He reflects on his painful past when a mysterious female voice suddenly catches his attention. A friendly redhead girl with glasses and a suit approaches him down the dark alley with a very big smile. The woman asks if he could lend her any small change to buy a lottery ticket. Ignoring the absurd request, the boy continues walking while she insists, promising to return the entire amount. Staring curiously at the boy, the stranger immediately asks if he is a foreigner visiting Korea. The mysterious girl explains that she travels a lot and noticed a Latin accent in the boy's few words, displaying a terrifying, murderous aura and red eyes. The boy turns his face away, telling the girl to get out of there. The redhead blinks in surprise and recoils slightly, astonished by the young man's sudden and aggressive response. Regaining her smiling posture, she waves cheerfully goodbye as the boy continues on his way, alone on the empty sidewalk under the moonlight. The elegant woman sighs with relief. In a very mysterious way, that same night the doorknob slowly turns in a peaceful residence announcing that the boy has arrived. Tae-seop appears completely desperate, shouting that he was about to file a missing person report. Tae-seop screams in despair, imagining that if the boy were to have an accident, he would lose custody of him. The man in the suit demands an immediate answer, while the boy remains seated in silence. Keeping her head down, Si-fa calmly replies that she had gone to the police station. The unexpected response leaves Tae-seop completely shocked and confused about the reason for it. The young man continues his lie, saying that he went to the place, but was too afraid to go in. Still confused, the guardian questions the boy, who pretends to have tried to find his real mother. The sudden revelation makes the agent's eyes widen in surprise and compassion. Si-fa cries falsely, saying she endured everything just so she could live with her mother in Korea. Tae-seop sighs heavily, feeling great pity for the poor boy's sad situation. Secretly, the killer hatefully thinks that he actually met his fake mother that day. Believing the story, the man anxiously gets up, asking if his mother knew he was there. The young man recalls Uni's cruel rejection, and Tae-seop stammers, waiting for good news, feigning sadness. The boy says he was sold, and the man tries to comfort him by denying the accusation, saying he is very tired. Si-fa goes to the room while the agent makes himself available. As soon as he is alone, Tae-seop grumbles stressedly, feeling that his time is running out. Later that night, the streetlights silently illuminated the dark city streets. Tae-seop waits under a light, smoking a cigarette in a completely deserted alley. The same red-haired woman who approached Si-fa approaches the agent, calling him sir. The man notices the late hours of work, and she explains that she followed the boy before dismissing the team. She confirms Si-fa's story, assuring that he did indeed go to the police station, but did not go inside. The agent deduces that he is just a frightened child seeking comfort from his mother. Remembering the young man's murderous gaze, Tae-seop internally questions whether he is just a boy. Dispelling suspicion, the man praises his colleague's work and tells her to go home and rest. As soon as the agent turns his back, the redhead adjusts her glasses with a rather mysterious smile. Inside his dark room, Si-fa rests on his bed, gripping his knife tightly. With a furious look, the boy realizes that the redhead on the street had been acting the whole time. The following morning, the sun's rays illuminate the window of the large government intelligence agency. The redhead reports to her superior that she did not find the boy on any cameras near the police station. The man concludes that the boy fabricated the story and finds it strange that Agent Tae-seop didn't notice. The boss explains that Tae-seop has a soft spot for children, and that's why he ignored the boy's aura. With a sinister smile, the woman confirms that the young killer looks exactly like them. Tapping his cigarette on the table, the superior concludes that the data received from the Americans was false. He orders the agent to keep the boy under surveillance and informs her that Tae-seop will have the night off tonight. The sound of a door opening momentarily interrupts the tense secret meeting. The mysterious man calmly lights his cigarette, displaying great authority. Director Shin Jae-baek smiles, finding the whole situation incredibly interesting. Analyzing the boy's file, the boss plans to transform the young man into their new secret weapon. In a violent flashback, Si-fa is called a monster while mercilessly attacking an enemy. The young assassin advances with red eyes and delivers a devastating blow to his opponent. The scene reveals a huge and frightening black tattoo etched into the warrior's broad back. The boy carries out extermination orders, annihilating the targets inside a very dark room, returning to his present thoughts. The former mercenary remembers the woman who swore was his mother. He tries to discover the identity of the mysterious person who hunted the woman in the past. Yuni's words echo in his mind, reminding him that his mother loved him and wanted to protect him from danger. The sacrifice of leaving him behind so that he could survive deeply affects the young man. In the silence of her room, Seifa reflects on everything she has discovered, maintaining a serious expression. The boy regrets betraying his allies and causing the death of his friend Dingo simply out of revenge. Totally frustrated, he grinds his teeth and curses himself for wasting time doing nothing. Suddenly, the killer's instinct is activated upon noticing a very strange sound in the environment. The door to the dark room begins to open slowly, revealing a bright light coming from the hallway. The agent suddenly enters the room and asks, confused, what is happening there? Seifa quickly hides the knife while the older man offers a playful welcome. Changing the subject, the boy asks him to sit down, claiming to have something important to say, but before that, Tsup surprises the young man by showing him a modern new cell phone, feigning innocence. The ex-mercenary smiles excitedly, asking if it was a special occasion. The man's expression changes to a very serious tone, warning that he will have an obligation. The next day, several students walk calmly to school early in the morning, wearing the mandatory school uniform. The young boy looks completely nervous there. Seifa observes all the normal teenagers thinking that it must be a joke. He watches a girl stretching on the court and complains about having to go to school. A flashback shows Seifa complaining about the country's intense obsession with formal education. The killer laments because he planned to hunt down the runaway woman before being sent away. Inside the parked car, Tsup sighs. Seeing that the boy will be late like this, the man leans back in the seat wondering what on earth his boss was thinking. In another memory, the agent appears completely shocked upon hearing the word school. While having dinner with Big Boss, Tsup questions how a foreigner would study there. The man points out that Seifa would soon be transferred to a shelter anyway. The agency director recalls that the dangerous boy was part of the world's largest cartel. Shin calmly pours a drink while explaining the true motives of the mission. The superior says the target could reveal huge smuggling routes and secret funds. Remembering the danger, he asks if Tsup really wants to remove him from total supervision. The agent is demanding the original agreement, arguing that they needed much more time. Tsup understands with concern that the entire team was called in just because the new boy was late. Shin assures that he only prepared his team in case the assassin 18 years ago escaped. He deduces that interacting with normal young people would greatly accelerate the boy's learning. Observing the traditional location, the big boss confirms that he will keep him at the school for now. Sipping his glass of soju, the director reveals that they will form a task force soon. Shin claims to have obtained crucial information about a very specific and dangerous target. He promises to give Tsup leadership of the mission. He takes care of the boy for longer. With a sly smile, the boss assures that it's a good deal for those seeking revenge. Faced with that irresistible offer, Tsup raises his glass, accepting the sealed deal. The agent faces the boss seriously, demanding that he fulfill his promise in the end. Currently, the man grips the steering wheel, ensuring he won't miss his big chance. Tsup mentally vows to kill his mysterious target with his bare hands. He looks at the school, relieved to think that the boy finally managed to get in. The man smiles, thinking that school will be quite easy for someone who survived the mafia. Preparing to leave, the agent reaches for the car's gear shift to accelerate. However, his eyes widen when he notices a very important detail on the vehicle. Tsup turns around completely shocked to see that Seifa was still on the bench with a fearful look. The young man pretends to be terrified because he has never been to a place like this. The boy squeezes his leg and cries, saying he is very afraid of being bullied there, deceived by the perfect performance. Tsup blames himself for not being a little kinder. The agent decides to lie blatantly just so as not to lose his chance for revenge. He makes up a story that government policy will send him straight to a shelter if he doesn't study. Convinced by the lie, the boy agrees to go but warns that he has one small condition. Fa requests permission to take an extra Korean course during the weekends. Concerned about his own delay, Tae quickly agrees to the study request. The young man opens the door smiling and reveals that he did it because he wants to live with the agent. The boy runs hurriedly as the school gates begin to close rapidly. Tae stands paralyzed in the car, completely surprised by that sweet final confession. The teacher enters the classroom and asks all the students to pay close attention. He announces a transfer student who lived in Mexico for a long time and doesn't speak Korean well, asking the class for help with the adaptation. The teacher tells the newcomer to introduce himself, wearing round glasses. Fi greets everyone in Spanish and surprises the students in the room, pretending to be a very shy and awkward boy. The young man says his name is Lee Fa. A girl finds his accent funny and reminds him that Mexico is full of gangs. A muscular boy deduces that he dealt with assassins and wonders if he knows how to fight. Everyone thinks he looks like an exemplary student while Fa compliments the disguise of the glasses. Another student judges him as a complete loser, while the teacher asks for silence in the room. Walking foolishly to the empty seat, the young assassin celebrates the result. Seeing that his colleagues judged him to be completely harmless, he decides to maintain his charade with a sharp, hidden gaze. Fa vows to play the role of a perfect loser. The break bell rings as the students decide to wait for the upperclassmen to leave the cafeteria. Inside the room, the students agree that it's best to avoid any trouble with the older students. Fa types on her cell phone complaining about everything, and the contact asks if the glasses disguise help. The young man recalls a woman telling him that he needed to hide his handsome face from the girls. Adjusting the accessory on his face, the boy silently examines the room out of the corner of his dark eye. Some female students stare at the newcomer, confessing that his face still attracts a lot of attention. But the boys are relieved, believing he has the harmless appearance of a loser. He urges the hospital investigation to be expedited until he is surprised by someone calling his attention to it. The student points to a girl who spent the whole day completely passed out on her desk, holding an English book. The boy concludes that his sleepy colleague must be working the night shift. An imposing delinquent with a bandage on his face approaches, asking about his past. The ex-mercenary smiles slyly, thinking he's finally going to face a real bully there. Fa uses her lively accent to explain that she was born in Korea and grew up in a city in Mexico. The boy finds the story strange, but quickly asks if the newcomer understands English well. Frustrating expectations, the delinquent simply slams the workbook on the table asking for help with the lesson. The killer imagines the situation would end in serious bullying, as happens in fake stories. Clenching his fist under the table, he plans to politely refuse help and hit if forced, pretending to be a helpless nerd. The boy quickly gets up, throwing his shoe to the side. The shoe flies off at very high speed and hits the face of someone entering the classroom. All the students are completely shocked by that bizarre and unexpected accident. The delinquent who is asking for help widens his eyes, completely bewildered by what just happened. Fa takes a deep breath, hiding her face, having let her deadly instincts slip for a second, quickly regains his idiotic grin and clutches his shoe. Cursing himself for failing at the theater, the newcomer apologizes, saying he slipped, while two senior students enter the room, facing the real target in dark pants and his henchman. Fa laments having missed his target. The boy with the workbook extends his hand, ordering the newcomer to return the shoe immediately. Continuing his awkward performance, the young assassin hands over his dirty shoes. Trembling with fear, the burly veteran charges forward angrily, accusing his rival of trying to steal control of the entire school. With a mocking smile, the rival retorts, telling the big boss to control his girlfriend better. One of the blonde henchmen becomes enraged upon hearing the girl, being compared to an animal in heat. The big guy grabs the enemy's shirt, asking if he wants to end up hurt like his brother. The threat immediately sparked fury in the student, who was holding the transferred youth's shoes, clicking his tongue in annoyance. The boy raises his shoe, ready to retaliate against the cruel provocation. He rubs the sole of his dirty shoe on the bully's chest, telling him to stop being arrogant. Completely blinded by rage, the student leader prepares a devastating punch. Cursing the enemy, the heavy fist hits the provocateur squarely in the face. Starting a general commotion there, the big guy tries to distance himself by claiming he was the victim of a dirty and sneaky scheme. Quickly regaining balance, the rival advances with everything, ignoring the empty excuses. He raises his lead, delivering a powerful kick to the big guy's face, who tries to defend himself. The leader prepares a fierce counterattack, vowing to take down the opponent at that very moment. Accepting the challenge, the rival shouts furiously, telling the pig to try its luck once and for all. The two students exchange violent blows, spreading blood and sweat all over the classroom. The other delinquents watch the fight, terrified by the high level of power of those monsters. Adjusting his glasses with his finger, the young ex-Senari watches that depressing scene, confused. Fa sighs in disappointment at seeing only teenagers playing around and not real criminals. The noise doesn't wake the sleeping girl, while the young man focuses his attention on something else. He stares out the window, uneasy with the persistent feeling of being watched from afar. The leader's distraction allows the rival to deliver a crushing final blow straight to the jaw. The big guy's allies scream in despair as they watch their boss lose the big contest. The student falls completely defeated to the ground, while the winner breathes heavily from the hard fight. The disguised young man thinks with relief that the confusion is finally over with the victory of the new number one in the school. Jita grabs the defeated former leader by the neck and orders all the students to pay close attention to him. The winner threatens to rip out his rival's tongue if he dares to speak of his older brother again. After the stern warning, the bully violently throws the knocked out opponent's body back to the ground. The new leader of the room confronts the other delinquents, calling them all trash and telling them to get lost. Suddenly, the sleepy girl wakes up with a start, screaming and startling the young ex-mercenary. Still sleepy, the student looks around, completely confused, wondering if it's lunchtime yet. Sweating nervously, Sifao awkwardly replies, confirming that the break started a long time ago. The girl gets furious and runs past the fighting students, telling them to fight outside. The delinquents are speechless as they watch the girl complain that she missed her chance to go to the cafeteria. Fa, impressed by the speed, decides to go eat until he hears the bully calling his name. The new leader asks if he is okay and says he took revenge for the shoe that was thrown. The boy wipes the blood from his face with a smile and acts as if the big fight was just a scratch. Changing the subject, the bully comments that it's late for the cafeteria and asks if the newcomer likes bread. The ex-assassin's eyes widened in shock and confusion at the very unexpected question. Fearing to become an errand boy, Sifa gets cold and stammers, asking if he should go buy the food. But he is surprised when a hand offers him a beautiful piece of sweet, filled, and appetizing bread. Jitae reveals that her family owns a bakery and distributes the leftovers to her classmates. Another student eats her snack while complaining that she's trying to lose weight, but can't resist the food. The bully notices Fa's hesitation and curiously asks if Korean bread is different from Mexican bread. Taking advantage of the peaceful moment, the delinquent points to the book and asks for help with his English lesson. Fa deduces that he is not evil but quickly remembers that he needs to be on his guard with the new leader. Later in the classroom, all the students study peacefully while the ex-mercenary lets out a yawn. After classes end, Sifa chats calmly with Jita, and they exchange phone numbers in the courtyard. Inside the room, The sleepy girl glances sideways, noticing that the new transfer student has already left. The sound of the school bell echoes throughout the entire school, officially announcing the end of the school day. The teacher informs that the dismissed students can go home safely while the others study. Fa waves goodbye with a smile to her new classmates before leaving the school. He walks calmly along the sidewalk with other students under the orange glow of the late afternoon. Despite everything being calm, the young assassin walks the streets feeling that something is very wrong. He remembers reading comic books on his phone, thinking that high school would be dangerous. Fa imagined he would be surrounded and humiliated by a gang of ruthless delinquents at school. The boy sighs, realizing he's overthought things before being interrupted by a sudden call on his cell phone. Looking at the device's screen, he notices an unknown number and wonders who could be calling, believing it to be one of his new colleagues. He calmly answers the call in the middle of the main street. A loud laugh echoes from the other end of the line, and a mocking voice asks in Spanish what Korea is like. Fa's eyes change instantly, and a terrifying aura of red bats surrounds him in the darkness. Hidden in an alley, he demands to know the person's identity, while the voice says he should have called. In a sunny place with the sound of waves crashing, a mysterious voice begs him not to be like this. A muscular blonde man relaxing on the beach warns that the voice modifier has failed and calls for old times reminiscing. The ex-mercenary's eyes widened immediately when he truly recognized who was speaking on the other end. A quick flashback reveals the image of the blonde man, wearing tactical clothing in a violent past. The dangerous memory makes Fa remember her partner pointing a gun in the darkness. Jack is a special government agent known as Joker, who is enjoying the beach celebrating the reunion. Walking down the alley, the boy realizes that the search for his real parents has become much more difficult. On the phone, Jack remembers the serious warning about keeping a low profile because the government is watching his every move. With a grim look, the young man orders the agent to cancel the surveillance and demands the result of a request. Jack laughs while drinking a cold beer and confirms that the killer's clue was a large treasure map. The screen reveals an old desert map marked with several red symbols at the enemy cartel's bases. The memory of the agent digging up suitcases of money at night proves that the mafia hid a lot of funds there. Jack is holding up a large wad of cash, saying they are richer than corporations, and asks if the boy needs money. Adjusting his glasses, Fa confirms that he urgently needs the money and asks how they will handle the expenses. Relaxing on the beach, Jack assures that he can send any amount, but warns that someone else will need to receive the money. Walking down the street, the young assassin dismisses the idea of using his own guardian, claiming he can't trust him. Jack suggests lying and pretending to be some kind of con artist while C observes a commercial building during her walk. Speaking on the phone, the boy explains that the problem with the guardian is that he seems to be a little too over the top. The assassin mistakenly believes that Agent T-Siup is just a normal guy, too honest for this kind of scheme. But the reality is quite different, and T-Siup appears brutally knocking a person to the ground at his workplace. The agent prepares a powerful punch and asks, with a very frightening look, if his opponent is finally going to give up. Being forcefully strangled against the ground, the young woman grinds her teeth and refuses to accept her great defeat. She manages to break free with a kick, saying she'd rather die, while the agent praises the fighter's good attitude. The woman performs an acrobatic leap backward and lands safely, complaining about the intense difficulty of the fight. Suddenly, the young woman's eyes widen as she realizes that her opponent isn't going to give her any time to breathe. With a fierce expression, T-Siup swiftly advances toward the woman to continue the intense hand-to-hand combat. The two exchange several high-speed blows, demonstrating great combat skill and considerable physical strength. Facing his partner, the experienced agent praises the fighter's incredible brute strength and reflexes. But he blocks the attack by criticizing the woman's stance for focusing only on defending instead of closing the distance. Taking advantage of the weakness, Taesiup firmly grabs his teammate and violently throws her down using his body weight. He completely immobilizes her on the ground, scattering papers into the air, and coldly warns her that she would die in a real fight. The woman groans in pain, lying on the hard floor as she tries to catch her breath after that devastating attack. The man ends the training session disappointed, remembering that his colleague was considered the best researcher in that class. Agent Bob complains, crying, that the weight difference is unfair and reminds everyone that she was only hired for desk work. Taesiup doesn't accept the excuse and tells her to stop talking nonsense, reminding her that almost all of their targets are men. The veteran asks if she's going to complain about injustice in every fight, leaving the young investigator completely embarrassed. Another investigator interjects, recalling that Bob herself begged for the fieldwork because she found the desk very boring. The elegant redhead agent O Swam crosses her arms, taking over the conversation to calm the tempers of that tactical team. She says that the existence of the secret team is confidential and the lost members were never replaced in the squad. The redhead stares at the notice board, saying that this time the current force won't be enough to capture the big target. An image shows the dangerous crime boss surrounded by henchmen, proving the enormous risk of extermination for the team. Swam approaches the newcomer's face, demanding that she leave if she wants to act like a child, as he doesn't want to deal with corpses. The agent cries, accepting the reprimand, while Taesiup is grateful that the redhead isn't an enemy of their great team. Suddenly, Taesiup's watch beeps loudly, indicating that it's time for him to leave the office. He puts on his jacket, explaining that he needs to leave quickly because it is the first day of school for the newly arrived boy. With a kind smile, the man explains that he intends to please the young man with a special celebration for the start of school. Meanwhile, the enormous school building is illuminated by the late afternoon sun, revealing the grand structure of the place. A mysterious sight focuses perfectly through the classroom window where the violent brawl between the delinquents took place. The target of the observing lens is precisely the young Sifa, while Taesiup reminds him that the school functions like a coliseum. The view pulls back, revealing the tall, beautiful residential buildings that surround the institution's violent neighborhood. From atop one of those enormous buildings, a mysterious shadow emerges, carefully surveying the entire scene. It's Taesiup using binoculars to watch the room from afar while he's puzzled by the large glasses on his charge's face. At another time at the agency, Swam announces that he is leaving and tells Taesiup to clean the office before clocking out. Before leaving, the red-haired investigator turns around, discreetly asking about the boy who is living with him. Walking down the street in the late afternoon, Taesiup remembers the woman's order to investigate the teenager in absolute secrecy. The memory shows the face of the boss willing to expose the true face of the former mercenary, even if it crossed the line. In the office, Bob notices Swam's small glasses left on the table and is startled by the unexpected surprise. The red-haired investigator suddenly appears, loosening the tie of her uniform while displaying a very confident posture. Swam takes off her jacket and challenges the newcomer to a fair fight, taking advantage of the fact that only the two of them are left in the room now. Terrified by the surprise training, the newcomer lets out a scream of despair that echoes outside the commercial building. As night falls, the beautiful facade of a Mexican restaurant shines with its lights, inviting the few customers that come in. A table is set with a huge feast of delicious tacos and nachos that elicit wonderful sighs of delight from the guests. Agent Tae-seop takes a big bite of his delicious taco at the restaurant. Si-fa chews on her snack with a big smile and praises the food highly. Tae-seop comments that it had been a long time since he had eaten that and asks if the boy misses home. With a sad expression, the young man replies that he doesn't miss that horrible place at all. The boy lowers his head with a very somber and melancholic look. A memory shows Si-fa and his former mercenary companions eating tacos together in the desert. But the happy memory is soon replaced by the tragic sight of the bodies of his dead friends. Believing the lie, Tae-seop finds the boy sensitive and tries to comfort him by saying that his friends are okay. Changing the subject, the agent asks how the teenager's first day of school went at the new school. Si-fa quickly recalls her sleepy classmate and the delinquents fighting violently in the room. Chewing on his bat, the assassin decides to hide the mess so as not to worry his new guardian. Lying, the boy says that nobody spoke to him, and Tae-seop suggests that he take off his glasses to become popular. The man chews his food, gazing at the boy with a slightly more attentive look. Displaying a radiant smile, the young killer feigns innocence and assures everyone that school life isn't so bad. Tae-seop's face lights up with an expression of surprise and relief at seeing the boy's happiness. The agent smiles contentedly, mentally concluding that investigator Shom was right about the boy. Surprisingly, the young Tae-seop wishes him a happy first day of school by speaking in Spanish to cheer him up. Later that night, the full moon illuminates the large facade of a silent hospital. Mafia executive Jang Dae-oh lies gravely wounded and bandaged on a hospital stretcher. Union leader Sadupa is breathing with great difficulty using a large oxygen mask. A mysterious figure wearing dark clothes and a cap silently enters the patient's room. The person pulls off the black mask, revealing it to be Uni herself, sneaking through the shadows of the place. The woman displays a cold stare as she stealthily approaches the man who destroyed her life. Outside, the faction's security guards continue to stand guard in the hospital corridor, oblivious to everything. The henchmen rest distractedly on the sofa, ignoring the silent invasion taking place in the room. Facing the sleeping mobster, Uni reflects that she has thought countless times about running away from that cruel man. A dark memory shows Uni's destroyed room, revealing that she was always caught when trying to escape. The woman recalls the terrible price she paid, being brutally beaten by him after each attempt. Over time, she finally realized that the reason she was being kept prisoner was not love of any kind. The real reason for his suffering was the simple desire for absolute control by that sadistic executive. The young woman bitterly concluded that she only suffered that severe abuse to obey his orders. Opening her bag, Uni decides that the only way to escape that hell is by killing the mobster there. She remembers the moment the hooded youth appeared and almost gave her the chance to get rid of him. But the sudden arrival of the security guards ruined everything, and she regrets that luck wasn't on her side. The woman remembers the henchman finding Jang wounded and concludes that perhaps things are better this way. With a determined look, Uni holds a poisoned syringe, ready to kill the high-ranking executive with her own hands. Wishing a cold farewell, she brings the lethal needle close to the venous access, stuck in the mobster's injured hand. Suddenly, the executive wakes up and grabs the woman's arm with brutal and terrifying force. With a bloodied face and wide eyes, Jang Dae-oh stares at her with extreme fury and pure murderous hatred. The scene abruptly changes to the mobster slurping a bowl of noodles in a very noisy and annoying way. Awake in his hospital bed, the boss demands water while Uni obeys in terror beside the wounded henchman. Sweating profusely, the woman hopes he hasn't noticed the syringe. While the man asks about the intruding boy, she lies, saying that the security camera footage has been completely erased, and there are no clues about the boy. One of the henchmen warns that the syndicate men are already investigating everything in the surrounding area. But without much success, impatient with the lack of results, The executive suggests that they immediately ask Ikjian for information. The mobster throws the food tray against the wall in a fit of rage, startling the injured henchman. Completely outraged, Jang grinds his teeth, hating the fact that he has to beg for help from his rival. Remembering Fa's murderous gaze and knife, the mafia leader concludes that he has no other choice but to capture him. Clenching his fist in intense hatred, he vows to do whatever it takes to capture and kill that damned brat. The executive yells, threatening the boy and frightening his own men. With that enormous outburst of pure rage, the leader screams furiously and vows to tear that cursed boy to pieces. Uni froze at the scene and realized the situation had turned into a disaster. A man with a scar in the shadows concludes that the big boss will soon find out everything. While the faction finds out about the boy, the teacher ends the school's announcements. The elderly professor bids farewell and wishes all the students a great weekend. The young ex-mercenary gets ready to leave, relieved, until he hears someone calling him. The leader Jatai approaches with his friends, noticing that the newcomer always goes home. Disguised as a nerd, the boy confirms that he doesn't take extra classes and just goes home. The simple answer ends up surprising the whole group of bullies. Without wasting any time, the great leader pulls an empty desk toward the new student. The group gathers around the boy and asks if attending classes has been difficult. The chubby student points out that studying there must be very difficult for a foreigner. The young assassin stares at the group, very suspicious of their sudden interest. Lying to maintain his disguise, the rookie says the subjects are difficult to handle, but secretly the ex-mercenary doesn't care at all about the subject of the classes. Smiling, the great leader shows the workbook, announcing that all his answers were wrong. The terrible grade on the assignment catches the young assassin completely unprepared. The short student examines the book and explains that that is not the correct answer in the answer key. The boy teaches that the language focuses entirely on rigid rules for exams. The older delinquents display very proud smiles, showing great wisdom. The friendliest student surprises the newcomer and offers tutoring after school hours. The ex-mercenary laughs and declines the kind offer while packing his black backpack. The bully butts in, warning that uneducated people have no value in the country. The boy stares at him with a serious look and asks if the newcomer has no dreams in life. Quickly escaping the conversation, the boy lies that he's late and runs out of the classroom. Not understanding the escape, the friends give up and decide to go back to studying in the classroom alone. The new leader rests his face in his hand and gazes thoughtfully out the sunny window. The enormous school building rests under the beautiful orange light at the end of that afternoon. The young man walks through the courtyard with the other students, ready to disappear for the weekend. The boy's curious question about having goals in life continues to echo in his mind. Showing irritation, the ex-mercenary judges the innocent question as utter nonsense. He reflects that death could come tomorrow and recalls a conversation about language. Reading a primer, he vowed in the past that he could not die without first having his revenge. Former classmate Corvo rests on the dusty ground, paying no attention to his studies. The assassin Pian appears excited, revealing her dream, but receives a very cold response. She turns to the redhead who shocks everyone by revealing he wants to be a papaya farmer. The young woman provokes the silent assassin, noting that he is the only one without a dream in life. The boy hands over a photograph, stating seriously that he doesn't have that much free time. The photo shows the team in the beautiful desert, proving the redhead's surprising talent in art. The companion advises the boy to think about his future when he returns to his old home. The boy sighs and suddenly tries to remember what his mentor Dingo's great dream was. An athletic student runs towards the schoolyard and calls out to the newly arrived boy. The colleague who spent the day sleeping shows up in workout clothes and asks for a quick favor. The immense and beautiful sea of clouds takes on reddish hues in the lovely sky of that sunset, carrying a box. He remains incredulous at the strange invitation from the class bully. Approaching a shed, she surprises and advises the newcomer to stay away from the leader, opening the door. She warns that the fighter has had a violent reputation for many years. Student highlights the old aggressors from the morning invasion and points to the figures there. The defeated ex-leader smokes on the sofa, looking quite furious about those two visitors. The girl points her finger and promptly kicks those big eyes out of her restricted club room. The blonde henchman orders the girl to stop screaming and close the door so no one can hear. Observing the scene, Sifa quickly recognizes the boys who were beaten up by the class leader. The former leader smokes a cigarette, smiling, and mockingly calls the girl the goddess of the racing team. The offender compliments the young woman's body, while she shows enormous discomfort with it. She tells them to leave, but the big guy ignores her and kicks the bespectacled newcomer out of the shed. Sifa concludes that trash like this exists everywhere and decides to leave without getting involved. The boy excuses himself and turns his back, irritating his classmate, who demands to know where he's going. The aggressor holds the young woman's arm, smiling, and mocks the rookie's complete lack of loyalty. Completely furious, the student grinds her teeth, repeatedly ordering them to get out of there. The girl breaks free abruptly and delivers a violent slap directly to the abusive bully's face. The surprise attack splatters blood through the air as the offender recoils in great pain. The former leader falls face down onto a sofa, startling his blonde companion at the same time. The girl's eyes widened in surprise as she realized that the big guy was much weaker than she thought. The bully grips the sofa with extreme fury, while the newcomer realizes the situation has gotten really bad. Standing up with eyes blazing with rage, the aggressor snaps his fingers, vowing to punish her behavior. The student realizes the enormous danger and tries to run desperately out of the isolated room, blinded by hatred. The delinquent advances, stretching out his hand while cursing the young woman in a very aggressive manner. The bully manages to grab the girl's arm, preventing her only chance of escaping with great violence. He throws the young woman directly against a fence full of sports balls. The former leader points his finger, ordering his partner to lock the door immediately. Sifa realizes that the bully has lost control and will attack the girl without any mercy. Staring at the fallen girl, the man blames her, saying she broke into the club and started the whole fight. The young woman pulls out her cell phone, threatening to expose all that cowardly harassment to the entire school. The device's camera focuses on the aggressor, further enraging the offender. The big guy prepares a brutal punch, cursing the girl and ready to beat her right there. The student screams in terror, closing her eyes and awaiting the devastating impact of the enemy's blow. She covers her head with her arms in fright, but realizes, confused, that the attack did not hit her. The bully freezes completely, sweating profusely, and with an expression of pure terror on his face. The assailant suddenly collapses to the ground, knocked unconscious, leaving the girl very shocked by the scene. Not understanding anything, the young woman turns her head and finds the transfer student near the open door. Sifa feigns ignorance, saying he doesn't know what happened there. While running out of the restricted room, the boy walks calmly through the courtyard while his classmate flees from the shed right behind him. The young assassin walks under the afternoon sun, reflecting that living a normal life is not easy at all. The scene changes to the angry repair sign, where someone shouts in shock at the high price. The gang leader is shocked by the huge monthly amount and complains about the high fees charged, sitting like a boss. Sifa explains that he needs a safe place to hide his money. The woman's eyes gleam with greed, and she accepts the deal, charging a hefty fee for the deposits. Sifa recalls a partner advising to use cowardly and greedy people to hoard money. The boy demands an investigation, and the gang leader hands over an envelope with the new results. The woman says that the hospital in the photo went bankrupt a long time ago and became a luxury hotel. She reveals that the old doctor in charge of the place mysteriously disappeared without a trace. The photo shows that the old orphanage has also been closed, and the building remains completely abandoned. Reading the brief report, the young assassin concludes in frustration that the team has discovered almost nothing. Fi gets up from the sofa while the woman promises to continue investigating his past thoroughly. The ex-mercenary tells him to get the car, because he himself is going to visit the old orphanage now. CID 96. The boss refuses the request, lying about company rules, but the boy reminds her that it pays very well. The young man ignores the apologies and turns his back, threatening to cut off funding to the small gang, emanating a terrifying murderous aura. The boy turns his face and demands to know if they really won't go. Terrified, the mobsters run desperately to grab the car keys because of the money. The group arrives at the isolated orphanage, but the employee informs them that the heavy gates are locked. The criminal boss points to a gap in the fence. Questioning why she went along, ignoring the woman, the young assassin takes a running start and easily jumps over the wall. Fi lands with great agility and tranquility on the grounds of the old abandoned orphanage. The gang leader's eyes widen in complete shock at that absurd agility. The ex-mercenary warns that opening the gate is difficult and tells her to crawl through the gap. The two enter the abandoned building, walking through the old corridors filled with trash. The woman walks along grumbling and worried about getting her expensive clothes dirty in that huge garbage dump. She asks what he's looking for in a place that's been locked for so long as he opens the door. The young assassin enters the dark room, stating that the place is as he imagined. The boy notices the presence of a man armed with a large sledgehammer living in that location. Completely enraged, the man swings the heavy tool, attempting to crush the intruder. Keeping calm, Fa dodges the deadly attack with an extremely quick movement. The heavy sledgehammer strikes the ground with great force, destroying the entire wooden floor. The gang leader lets out a scream of terror as she witnesses that surprise and deadly attack. The resident shouts furiously, demanding to know who gave them permission to enter the building. He orders the invaders to get out of there before the young man can quickly stretch out his hand. With extreme ease, the ex-mercenary violently knocks the aggressive man to the ground. The fallen resident threatens to call the police, accusing the pair of trespassing and physical assault. Without wasting any time, the boy points the heavy sledgehammer directly at the frightened man's face. Holding the weapon firmly, Fa questions whether he is the former director of that orphanage. The director sweats profusely and freezes in terror as the intruder warns that he has important questions. The woman watches the entire violent scene, completely shocked by the young man's behavior. The young assassin threatens to kill the principal with a sledgehammer if he dares to tell any lies. The scene cuts to showing the old, dirty sign in the director's office of that failing orphanage. The frightened man rummages through the old files, scattered on the floor of that messy room. The woman asks how the boy knew that the principal was living in hiding in that dirty place. Fi mocks the gang and explains that the absence of vegetation indicated that someone was taking care of the area. The young assassin also notes that the doors opened easily because they were used frequently. He concludes that only the owner would live in a garbage dump and still call the building his own. The boy assumes the director lost everything gambling and tells the woman to do her job. The director, sweating nervously, finally finds the old folder with the old records. The man says it's incredible how much the baby has grown while Fa tells him to shut up. Trying to disguise his guilt, the man laughs cynically, commenting that time flies by quickly. The director comments that it was very lucky the boy didn't look like his father, leaving Fa shocked. Completely shaken, The young man steps forward and grabs the director's shirt with extreme violence. The ex-mercenary demands answers because he believed his mother had abandoned him alone. The frightened director reveals that the parents arrived together, and the man had a scar. The assassin grinds his teeth with intense hatred upon realizing that Uni lied so blatantly. The scene cuts to show the city's luxurious skyscrapers illuminated by the beautiful blue sky. Uni walks down the street disguised, pulling a large suitcase to escape as quickly as possible. The woman bumps into some men on the sidewalk and apologizes, lowering her head. She quickens her pace, knowing she won't have another great chance if her husband catches her. Desperate to get out of there, the fugitive runs waving to a taxi waiting on the street. The woman hurriedly enters the vehicle, breathing a sigh of relief at having escaped the thugs. In the back seat, she plans to board a clandestine ship and start a new life far away. Suddenly, the car door is abruptly opened by a mysterious man in a tracksuit. Uni is completely terrified when she is cornered by two criminals inside the taxi. Without saying a single word, one of the men pulls a very sharp knife from inside his coat. The henchman points the gleaming blade, threatening to cut the woman's throat if she moves. The vehicle speeds through the busy city streets, taking the mobster far away. Fi observes everything through the rearview mirror and doesn't try to stop the mafia from kidnapping the lying Uni. The woman from the angry gang drives the van, terrified by the dangerous situation on the streets. The young assassin simply watches the journey silently through the glass with a focused gaze. Recalling the discoveries, the boy violently dragged the principal out of that room. He threw the man to the ground and demanded to know any useless detail about the person in the photo. The frightened director swore that the masked man with the scar only looked like a mobster. Facing the fearful ex-mercenary, the old man despaired, insisting he had told the whole truth. The boy agreed and mentally concluded that he could not, in fact, be a family member. The old man panicked, fearing he would be killed, while the young man analyzed the new clues. Fa walked around the room confident that locating the man with the scar wouldn't be difficult, but he soon remembered that his priority now was to find his runaway fake mother. He leans against the van window, determined to find that liar and interrogate her again. On a busy night, the illuminated facade of the trendy KD club draws people in. The angry gang van pulls up with a screeching brake on the busy street of the famous location. The woman freezes in fear, questioning why he asked the car to stop so far from the entrance. The boy prepares himself, saying he needs to keep it a secret because the Guardian thinks he's normal. Seafile rushes down and tasks the cowardly gang with tracking down Uni, who escaped from the hospital. The assassin watches the van drive away and walks down the street, very pleased with his henchman. But the ex-mercenary's eyes quickly widen as he notices something suddenly in the middle of the road. Keeping his cool, the young genius simply ignores the surprise and subtly turns his face away. With just a glance out of the corner of his eye, he confirms that the strangers on the street are nothing more than ordinary pedestrians. Walking cautiously through the shadows, he warns that his instincts sensed a dangerous presence. The boy stops confused near the gate of his own school and senses something suspicious in the air. Startled and calling out to the bespectacled newcomer, the bully, accompanied by his partner, finds him at the door. Maintaining his composure, the boy calmly asks what happened to his new classmate. The bully breathlessly recounts how his sporty friend ended up involved in a big, violent fight. Scratching the back of his neck, Sifa lies very blatantly, claiming that he ran away and didn't see any of that. The bully advances, slamming his hand on the table and cursing the young man for being so cowardly in his escape. He loses control, yelling if the boy imagined what could have happened to his friend. The ex-mercenary realizes with irritation that the bullies now feel sorry for the ill-mannered and strong sportswoman. But on the outside, the fake nerd acts like a perfect scared loser, begging for forgiveness, feigning panic. Fa argues in a weak voice that she was too afraid of getting hurt in the fight. That pathetic justification ends up causing a great shock of disappointment. Among the bullies in the group, the delinquent rages, calling the transferee useless, oblivious to the coldness in the young man's gaze. The sleepy friend approaches, judging, and the other colleagues condemn the cowardice of the young Mexican. The former leader emerges furious, aggressively interrupting the discussion and demanding revenge right there. The athlete Yujin herself interrupts the class with her hands on her hips, drawing their attention. She simply sends the useless transfer to accompany her, wanting to discuss something very private. Fearing for him, the delinquent defends him from the young woman who confronts everyone in a very defiant manner. With no other choice, the rookie had to follow his teammate, and the two walked alone around the large court area. Crossing her arms, the pretty girl says that he should be sorry and wants him to tell the truth. Fi plays dumb, offering more apologies and claiming he ran away because he was afraid of getting hit hard. My colleague admits that she also thought she would be in great danger when she was cowardly surrounded in the enclosed space. She picks up her own phone, recording a video showing the newcomer acting as an errand boy. The flashback shows the aggressor cursing Yujin, but the focus shifts, revealing the sneaky athlete's intentions. The device's video also clearly recorded the incredible attack that the former mercenary launched against the bully. The footage of the devastating beating in the sheds shows how the bully's rage was stopped in the blink of an eye. Eugene smiles, revealing the big secret she's discovered about that student. While he stares at her apprehensively, the student excitedly explains that she was recording everything to report the former leader and ended up catching something surprising. The boy gets furious with himself, realizing he completely let his guard down for the normal girl. Yujin praises the boy's perfect acting, confessing that she was almost fooled by him. The girl points to the video on her cell phone and calls her lying classmate a true hero. Fa blatantly denies everything, arguing that the face in the video is too blurry. Smiling, the student threatens to share that compromising recording with the entire school. The school bell rings loudly, echoing everywhere and interrupting that conversation. Taking advantage of the perfect moment, the fake nerd makes up a lame excuse and runs away again. The girl screams angrily, demanding explanations, while the killer runs off to devise a plan. Eugene crosses her arms, absolutely certain that the strong boy in the video is really him. Back home, the photograph of the old mercenary team rests on Fa's desk. The young man lies on the bed, throwing his knife into the air as he thinks about how to resolve this. He recalls that the sporty girl spent the entire day staring at him in the classroom. The ex-mercenary sighs in frustration, concluding that he won't be able to live like that. The boy hesitates to steal the cell phone, knowing that she surely has backups. Suddenly, the doorknob of the room slowly turns, drawing the young man's attention. Up enters the room wearing only pajamas to check on his charge. The officer observes the teenager lying face down, appearing to be in a very deep sleep, but Fa was awake and froze when he realized he hadn't sensed the man approaching. Up leaves the room and walks silently to the large bookshelf in the house. The guard pulls the heavy piece of furniture, revealing the entrance to a very dark, secret passage. The experienced agent descends the long, hidden stairs, ready to begin his shift. Up adopts a serious posture, warning himself that it's time to work overtime. Outside, the house rests peacefully. Under the moonlight in the empty neighborhood, a hooded figure observes the residence from atop a wall, with very sinister intentions, twirling the knife on the bed. Fa smiles confidently as she senses the enemy's presence outside. The mysterious red-haired intruder wipes his mouth, displaying a deadly look. The dangerous assassin curses in Spanish, calling the target a fucking traitor under the moonlight. Meanwhile, A lamppost illuminates the deserted street near the agency's secret hideout. The door opens, revealing the messy interior of the secret team's operations room. Tae-seop's eyes widen in complete surprise upon finding someone unexpected inside. The agent turns on the light and asks when the old veteran returned to South Korea. Tae-seop complains that his teammate should have notified the team leader about his arrival. Old spy Choi Chelian scoffs at the title and tells his colleague to go buy some drinks. The table is soon filled with bottles and snacks as the old man celebrates, feeling alive. Tae-seop asks if the veteran still uses the upstairs and suggests renting that space. The agent accuses the old man of living trapped in the past, cites an agreement made with the director. Chelian retorts, stating that revenge won't change anything, and his colleague calls him senior. The leader tells the old man not to cross the line, and the veteran smiles, saying he's an expert at it. Chelian laughs, bragging about the past, but the agent sighs, urging him to focus on the work. The veteran tells him to respect his elders and hands over the photos from the recent investigation. Tae-seop analyzes the images while listening to the message that the target, Hassan, has joined the Triad's mafia. The photo reveals the mercenary talking to the mobsters after buying a large position. Chelian explains that the dangerous Hassan now commands all the smuggling throughout Asia. The big problem revealed by the spies that the target also started trafficking drugs. Tae-seop takes notes and finds that distribution in Korea is controlled by the Sadupa gang. The syndicate wants to be the head of the snake and is led by the brutal criminal named Rigan. The delegate recalls the investigation at the VIP club and understands that the place belongs to that faction. Thoughtfully, Tae-seop wonders to himself if the fugitive Uni has any ties to the gang. The old spy notices the distraction and asks if something is wrong, but the leader quickly denies it. Tae-seop organizes the information by drawing a large distribution map on his paper. The agent completes the organizational chart, including Lin's name, and wondering what the next steps are. The old spy predicts that the dangerous smuggler will come to Korea in person. The veteran smiles, stating that everything went exactly as his partner wanted. The scene changes and shows young Fa sleeping peacefully in his dark room. Suddenly, the ex-mercenary opens his eyes as he senses something very dangerous approaching. He jumps out of bed, realizing that this is no ordinary thief. The boy grabs his knife, noticing that the intruder has perfectly erased his own presence. Slowly, the doorknob turns and the bedroom door is opened by a mysterious hand. Fa prepares to fight, shocked to discover that someone of that level exists there. Suddenly, the assassin's eyes widen as he notices a sneak attack coming towards him. Several throwing knives fly through the darkness and violently pierce the wall of the room. Analyzing the peculiar shape of the weapon attached to the wall, he quickly recognizes its owner. A man with reddish hair leaps from the shadows with pure murderous intent. With a quick reflex, the boy uses his own blade and blocks the dangerous blow. Shocked by the invasion, the young man recognizes the attacker and says the name of his former teammate. The enemy, Curvo, displays a sadistic smile and greets the former mercenary after so long. The two assassins engage in a violent knife fight, sending sparks flying across the room. A heavy footstep echoes across the wooden floor as the tension reaches its peak there. Walking through the darkness, the redhead mocks, saying that the traitor seems very comfortable. The assassin swings his arm angrily, indignant that he lives in peace after the betrayal. Several other deadly blades are rapidly fired at the target in the dark room. The dangerous invader launches his attacks as he advances with everything he has towards his former partner, dodging the blows. Fa desperately begs his old friend to listen to him for a moment. Curvo leaps violently and shouts furiously that there is no reason to listen to a traitor. During the intense battle, the red-haired mercenary grabs a chair with great strength and agility. He violently smashes the furniture against the boy, who tries to defend himself from the strong impact. Realizing that dialogue is useless, Seifa adopts an aggressive stance and decides to retaliate against the attack. The blades clash swiftly as the enemy is disappointed by the boy's weakness. Pressing the fight, the redhead shouts that their former mentor is crying in hell because of him. The unexpected mention of the deceased strikes the young man's heart and destroys his concentration. Overcome by sudden fury, the boy lunges forward, yelling at the bastard to shut up once and for all. But the defensive lapse allows Curvo to unleash an extremely fast and powerful shot. The powerful blow hits Seifa squarely in the stomach and throws his body away with great force. The young man furiously slams his back against the television, completely destroying the electronic device. Holding the knife, his rival calls him an amateur for letting anger cloud his vision in battle. The boy laments being without his deadly hair until he notices a shadow appearing in the nearby window. Suddenly, the glass shatters when a woman bursts into the place with a beautiful acrobatic leap. Seifa lifts his bleeding face and is utterly terrified to recognize the assassin pinned there. The former partner lands brutally with a very menacing fighting stance. Without wasting any time, Curvo unleashes another deadly sequence of knives that fly through the air. The various sharp blades pierce Seifa's chest with precision, causing a great deal of blood to splatter. The young man is in agony, letting out a desperate cry of pure pain as he feels his body being mutilated. The woman raises her gleaming katana and utters cold words condemning the great traitor. Seifa's eyes tremble in utter despair as he faces death coming to claim his life. Peen brings down his lethal sword, slicing through the air in a crimson arc to decapitate his former partner. At that exact millisecond, a hand grips the handle of a knife firmly in a defensive reflex. Seifa wakes up from the nightmare screaming and violently attacks the air with her small kitchen knife. Acting quickly, Tacy grabs the boy's arm and demands that he return to reality now. The fake nerd slowly regains consciousness as the night horror fades from his vision. Immobilized on the ground by the guard, he breathes heavily and is relieved not to be injured. The young man asks, confused, what happened, and the officer replies, shocked, that he was almost stabbed by him. Sweating profusely, the young man wonders if it was all a dream, because the feeling was very real. The boy notices his uncle's injured arm, who simply smiles, saying it's nothing serious. Completely guilty, the axe mercenary lowers his head, thinking about how to fix his big mistake. The officer asks about the hidden knife, and the young man replies that he bought it with his own allowance. The boy explains that he kept the weapon hidden, purely out of survival instinct stemming from his past. Bandaging his injured arm, the man deduces that the nighttime attack was merely a simple instinctive defense. The fake nerd sighs dejectedly, accepting that he will probably be kicked out of that house soon. To the young man's surprise, the experienced agent touches his shoulder, saying that it seems to be a serious trauma. The guardian apologizes for not being more attentive, leaving the assassin completely shocked. But he soon confiscates the dangerous knife and bans weapons in the house, while the boy simply apologizes. Changing the subject, the agent informs the person because the protected will be late for their study session with their new friend. The student runs desperately to the bathroom, apologizing, while the man tells him to slow down. Alone in the room, the agent's face darkens as he remembers that the strike was aimed at a lethal point. The experienced warrior recalls that his throat would have been cut if he hadn't reacted so quickly there. Taesiop reflects that such absurd speed could never come from a simple sleepwalking episode. Sighing heavily, the agent finally realizes that the young foreigner is hiding a dark power. A sinister memory emerges, depicting fearsome mafia criminals wielding deadly blades. The image of the large team of investigators highlights the dangerous threat of the criminal underworld. Staring at the ground, the man comes to the frightening conclusion that the boy is a great professional under the beautiful sunny sky. The facade of the small mafia gang's workshop appears in the bustling city. Inside the secret base, a colleague refutes TC-Up's excuse, saying that it was not an accident. The redhead swarm carefully bandages the long wound, demanding to know who attacked her strong companion. The agent steers away from the dangerous subject and demands the important information requested from the new investigator. Holding a tablet, the newcomer reveals that the mysterious location he mentioned ended up appearing in the newspapers. The researcher explains seriously that the location was recently the scene of a major violent gang war. The scene recreates the vision of the Great Night tragedy, showing several henchmen rescued at the club. The researcher says that leader Jang himself survived, but remains badly injured in a hospital bed. The rookie shocks the veteran by revealing that witnesses blamed a single person for the entire attack, finishing the bandage. The redhead smiles, mocking the great humiliation suffered by that violent union. The leader tensely recalls that the massive confrontation occurred on the same day. He met the runaway fake mother, and the memory gets worse when you remember that it was exactly the night. The boy arrived late, covered in blood. Reading the detailed report on the tablet, he begins to suspect a terrible connection between the long events. The experienced agent puts on his shirt and calls the team into action, needing to confirm his dangerous theory. The young researcher excitedly and eagerly agrees to the great mission. She was about to begin. The redhead puts on her tactical gloves, secretly reflecting that the fake student is a huge, real threat. The scene cuts again to the small, brightly lit workshop, where the young assassin is listening to some terrible news. The henchmen try to explain themselves by saying that they tracked Uni, but the runaway woman simply vanished from there. The criminal leader warns with concern that the powerful mafia organization is also pursuing the fugitive relentlessly. Local rumors reveal that the lying Uni packed her bags in a hurry and managed to flee far away from the country. Clutching his hair in pure hatred, the boy realizes the enormous mistake he made, believing he dug his own grave there. The memory of the tense rescue at the hospital haunts the boy's mind, proving the failure of his ideal plan. The ex-mercenary recalls the attack in bed, understanding that he now has no other option but to focus on new targets. Rubbing his exhausted neck, the assassin wonders if the small gang tracked down the guy with the scar on his face. The henchman surprises everyone by raising his thick hand and confirming that he knows the true identity of the dangerous target. The man reveals, terrified, that the subject's name is Rigan, and that he represents a fearsome legend in the obscure underworld. The terrible legend indicates that Rigan single-handedly built the Sadupa Union by destroying and dominating countless territories. The student is shocked by the strong connection, while the bandit warns that the legend has disappeared for good after his great success. Unsatisfied with the monster's escape, the boy demands more answers until he suddenly notices a shadow nearby. The great leader Jang appears prominently, representing the only key to revealing the location of the mafia legend. With a big, confident smile, the young assassin concludes that a loyal subordinate will know the leader's exact whereabouts. Outside the club, the henchmen warn the leader, who is searching for the legend Rigan, to be careful, leaning on crutches. Jang says he'll be back late and tells them to call if they find the runaway. The big mobster's luxurious black car speeds through the sunny city streets. Observing everything from afar, Sifa calls the small gang over and orders them all to get into a car. Sitting in the back seat, the young ex-mercenary demands that the mobsters follow the wounded target. During the chase, the killer complains about how slow that old white car is. The mobster explains that it was risky to use the official car, and the boy tells him to rent one. The leader laughs, saying that she avoided spending money while they drove down a long road. The woman finds the escape strange, remembering that the mobster should still be badly injured. Sci-Fi agrees that he shouldn't be moving so far so soon after being discharged, Sensing the danger, the killer orders the team to keep their distance and put on their masks. The old white car speeds down the empty road under the beautiful orange sky of the late afternoon. The group arrives at a huge abandoned building hidden by mountains covered in vegetation. The gang leader tries to guess if that big, bizarre place is an illegal casino. Staring at the building, the ex-mercenary replies in a somber tone that the place is much worse. Wearing his dark tactical suit, the boy assures her that it's better she doesn't know the truth. The young man orders everyone to stay in the car while he ventures into the dangerous territory alone. Leaping powerfully, the assassin warns that he only needs 1 hour for his attack. He tells the group to run away if he doesn't return in time and runs into the dense forest. Shocked by the sheer madness, the monsters decide to follow his orders and wait there. Fa runs at very high speed, relying entirely on his combat skills. The young man surveys the isolated area. Knowing there are no civilian witnesses nearby, he notices the enormous cold storage room and understands that the gang stores a lot of raw materials there. The large, smoking incinerator indicates a perfect system for destroying any evidence, and the sewage with a strong chemical odor confirms his initial theory about the isolated building. The assassin realizes that the powerful mafia also uses the location to manufacture hard drugs. Fa sneaks through the enemy base and finds the mobster's luxurious car parked there. With great agility, the intruder jumps directly onto the hood of the criminal's vehicle. The two mobsters watching the area get scared and try to make a call quickly, but the quick assassin unleashes a powerful kick that hits the first guard in the face. The second mobster's eyes widen in shock at the intruder's brutality. Without giving him a chance to defend himself, Fa crushes the man's face with a devastating punch. He ignores the fallen bodies and runs with determination towards the large building. The young man deduces that the fugitive crime boss must be hiding and protected on the top floor. Displaying his insane agility, the mercenary scales the walls. Jumping through the dirty windows, the masked invader lands silently in the upper corridor of that dangerous enemy base. Several armed thugs guard the long corridor and soon notice the arrival of the intruder. The young man smiles beneath his mask as he finally finds the large principal's office there. With relentless fury, Fa quickly massacres all the henchmen in a bloodbath. After the fierce fight, only the large door to the chief's office remains closed in the hallway. Using the body of a mobster, the young man violently breaks down the heavy wooden door. The mercenary brandishes the knife and stares at the fallen bandit with a furious and grim look, but the intruder finds the silence strange and walks around the empty room. Sensing that the target has escaped, a noise catches his attention, and he realizes that the leaders are already fleeing down the corridor. Fa opens the window, worried that perhaps the enemy has lured him into a trap. The young man is surprised to see Zhang smiling down below, surrounded by his entire army. At this very moment, the door of an old cabinet slowly opens inside the office. Fa turns his head in shock as he notices an assassin emerging from behind him in the darkness. Taken by surprise, the boy has no time to react to 3 dangerous knives thrown at him. A large spurt of intense red blood brutally and horrifically concludes the scene. A voice echoes in the darkness, saying that the target's incredible abilities may have weakened. Fa defends the attack, bleeding, and realizes that the cuts do not dishonor the powerful Ganado Mafia. The red-haired intruder emerges from the shadows, revealing his true identity as the assassin Cuervo. Displaying a sadistic smile, the enemy greets his former colleague, calling him by his old name. The redhead laments that the invasion lost its charm, because the traitor didn't seem very surprised. The young man assumes a fighting stance and immediately asks how he found out his whereabouts. Cuervo looks to the side, stating that he began to suspect something the same day the boss died. A memory shows the killer running desperate, jointly during the collapse of the old base tunnel. He recalls that the fallen boy awaited death with a very serene smile on his young face. The red-haired invader deduced that a strategic genius would never accept defeat silently. Sifa's eyes widen as his former partner accuses him of massacring the Sadupa gang's base. Cuervo reveals that he extracted the whole truth from the thugs knocked out at the nightclub that same night. The redhead explains that the mobsters reported suffering attacks through the walls and also the ceiling. Reports prove that the violent intruder moved in the shadows exactly like a real bat. Preparing his 2 knives, the enemy smiles, relieved to have made the right decision to travel. The ex-mercenary is in total shock when he hears his boss Hassan's name mentioned by his rival. The boy's mind connects the dots and tries to understand the secret relationship between the 2 great leaders. Taking advantage of the opening, the redhead throws his blades, smiling at finally provoking a reaction. Sifa dodges the knives while the assassin taunts him, noting that his mind is full of doubts. The enemy advances with a deadly blow and promises to tell the whole truth if defeated in the fight. The 2 collide violently while the boy ponders what to do in this deadly situation. The scene cuts to dusk at the hospital, where a voice desperately pleads for trust. The mafia leader justifies himself to the 2 visitors by stating that the goods were saved. Jang assures that the criminal organization is safe. But the man in the dark glasses seems to doubt it. The woman introduces herself as the new representative of the big mafia and warns that she will only report everything. The fake mobster is the great undercover investigator who concludes that the target confessed to all the crimes. The undercover investigator asks the wounded man if they can meet the big mafia leader there. The fake mobster maintains a serious demeanor while observing the strong hesitation and fear of the sadistic target. The redhead adopts a threatening attitude and bluffs, saying that perhaps the leader is unaware of the chaos. The wounded henchman panics and yells, assuring everyone that his big boss knows everything that happened. With a plan in mind, the experienced TC-up discreetly puts his hand inside his own jacket. The agent pulls a small knife from his pocket and surprises the leader by asking if he recognizes it. The mobster freezes in terror, confessing that the bladed weapon belongs to him and demanding to know how it was stolen. TC-up is completely shocked to realize that his fake nephew was the real intruder. The disguised Oswam ends the conversation by thanking them and assuring them that she will send a lengthy report, not wanting to let them leave. The mobster raises his knife, begging them to stay for dinner. The henchman flashes a wicked grin and reveals that the person from the outsourced mission will return today. The secret investigators stare at the target, confused by that undocumented side mission. The wounded leader scratches his head, explaining that this is confidential work for Chief Hassan. TZ's eyes widen in astonishment when the mobster reveals that they are hunting the intruder. Overcome by fear, the big agent drops his disguise and runs to save the boy. Blinded by rage, the man grabs the criminal by the collar and violently demands answers right there. Ignoring his partner's plea for calm, the agent rages desperately about the whereabouts of the great agent. Meanwhile, the enormous abandoned building displays the marks of violent combat. Under the beautiful orange sky, the fake student tries to survive by exchanging brutal blows against the experienced red-haired mercenary. Sifa defends against a stab, realizing that his opponent is using his blind spots to attack him furiously. The assassin retreats, realizing that his opponent throws deadly knives whenever he falters. Cuervo stretches out his free hand as the young man notices that dodging that attack will cost him his entire footing. Taking advantage of the opening, the redhead grabs the boy and delivers a brutal blow that throws him to the ground. Quickly regaining his balance, Sifa dodges the enemy's stomp and retaliates with a powerful, lethal slash. The young man retreats with a somersault, knowing that the distance will cause the enemy to throw knives. A sharp blade streaks across the air, passing very close to the young ex-mercenary's face. Fa blocks the weapon using his own knife and realizes his rival's dangerous tactic. Without giving Corvo a break, he advances swiftly and delivers a powerful kick to the boy. The young man manages to block the strong impact, but soon a cross-punch surprises him there. Fa grinds his teeth, sensing that there is something even more dangerous in that great rival. The enemy attacks emanating an aura of black feathers reminiscent of pure and terrible death. The boy grips his rival's arm tightly, calling his former classmate a true butcher. Suddenly, a mysterious hand grabs the young man's wrist. Interrupting the intense struggle, a memory shows the late mentor Dingo holding the two students during an old training session in the past. The angry boy questioned why the master always stopped the good fights. The old coach stated that there was no point in it, while Corvo found it all boring. The assassin peon provoked the redhead by praising his remarkable improvement in those skills. Back in the present, concludes that killing his bloodthirsty ex-partner will be very difficult. In his recollection, the young man confessed he wasn't sure of victory and asked the master for advice. The experienced Dingo advised the boy on how to act in a real fight against the redhead. The master revealed that the great secret to victory was to trust your partner completely. The ex-mercenary recalls the strange warning in the middle of the battle and becomes very confused. Dingo explained that Corvo wouldn't die easily, even if he fought with all his might. The echo of the past commands the young man to trust the target's movements and spin his own blade. The two former teammates exchange an absurd sequence of rapid blows in the large room. The redhead suffers a minor cut on his neck and immediately senses that the atmosphere of that battle has changed. Fa advances aggressively, and the enemy realize his true murderous intent. Completely consumed by hatred and surprise, the red-haired mercenary grinds his teeth. Corvo screams furiously and prepares a deadly blow to punish the traitor from his former team. Stomping firmly and filled with hatred, the assassin charges forward, praising the courage of his opponent. The dangerous redhead delivers a powerful kick that sends the young man flying with extreme violence. The strong impact throws Fa, shattering the glass of a huge window there. The fake student falls backward in freefall, observing the beautiful sky of that sunset. With an extremely fast movement, he shoots out the long wires hidden in his clothing. The thin metal ropes fly out the window and wrap around the red-haired opponent's body. Corvo freezes and widens his large eyes upon noticing the unexpected trap that has caught him. The weight of the falling young man violently drags the killer across the wooden floor. Corvo curses his desperate rival as he is forcibly pulled towards the large window. The enemy realizes that the traitor used his tactic to deceive him and throw him off balance. Fa manipulated Corvo's anger and made lose control before tying him up in the wires. Feeling that he will fall from the building, the murderer tries to urgently free himself from that prison. Suddenly, the mercenary's gaze reflects pure terror as he notices something frightening nearby. Fa swiftly reappears, pulling the ropes and bidding farewell, with the lethal knife gleaming in his hand. The scene cuts abruptly to the traffic lights of a large, congested city street. A luxurious and fast silver car accelerates violently, spewing a lot of smoke across the asphalt. Up shouts indignantly, telling the driver to drive faster as they cut through traffic. Swarm drives the vehicle complaining about the heavy rush hour traffic and the enormous distance. The desperate agent tries to call Safa, warning them by cell phone about the life-threatening situation. The old abandoned building rests in distant silence, hiding the true war caught in the crisscrossing wires. The red-haired enemy suffers a dirty blow from the opponent hanging there. Corvo is unable to react in time as the assassin displays his immense lethal fury. Fa prepares the final blow and states in a somber tone that it was good to see his old partner again. With superhuman reflexes, the redhead dodges, sending the knife past his face. Ignoring the flaw, The fake student pulls his arm back and delivers a quick noob cut in response. The opponent manages to block the swift blow with his own shoulder while bleeding heavily, but the protagonist quickly slips a new, sharp blade down the sleeve of his shirt. The red-haired man raises his knife, shouting that if he were to die there, he would die alone. The mercenary charges at the blue-haired boy with pure hatred in his eyes. The protagonist simply holds the enemy's black jacket firmly, saying that he missed. He pulls the redhead's clothes very forcefully and says he should wear something lighter. Using the momentum from the pull, the boy supports his foot on the edge of the wooden structure there. The two end up plummeting backward together towards the great void outside. A piece of wood breaks in the redhead's hand as he tries to brace himself during his enormous fall. The opponent screams in despair as they plummet towards a large, turbulent river. Their bodies hit the water with a very violent impact and sink rapidly into the river. The red-haired assassin manages to emerge desperately and gasps for air, but a shadowy figure emerges right behind him, with its lethal blade ready to strike. The two clash their weapons brutally in the middle of the strong current of the violent river. The fierce battle continues as the turbulent waters try to drag their bodies away. The man in the jacket attempts a very aggressive attack, shouting that it was already over. Suddenly, a small throwing knife cuts through the air at very high speed in the area. The redhead is caught off guard and ends up being swallowed by the brutal force of the turbulent water. He crashes against the rocks and tries to understand what has just happened to his body. The mercenary notices a knife stuck in the rock with a wire and questions when it ended up there. Trapped by the strong snare in the strong current, he realizes he is running out of air. His strength is fading, and he bitterly wonders if this will be his ultimate end. The vision darkens and the scene cuts to the beautiful orange sky of a calm late afternoon. The man regains consciousness, coughing up a lot of water while lying on a bank. The protagonist is standing right next to him and calmly asks if he has woken up yet. The opponent struggles to his feet and is completely shocked to still be alive. He tries to advance with the knife, but is warned that his wound could reopen. With no other options, he puts away the weapon and asks what the young assassin wanted to know anyway. The boy crosses his arms and seriously questions how he ended up in that distant country. The redhead explains that he was arrested with an ally after the cartel collapsed and ended up being deported. They were sent back to their country of origin to a high-security prison. Amidst bloodied cells, someone mysterious made an unexpected visit to the place. Sitting in his cell, the prisoner admits that he never thought he would be happy to see that face. It was Instructor Hassan, who appeared accompanied by a very smiley girl. The experienced man approaches and warns that the assassin only had two options there. He shows the prison keys and offers great freedom if you decide to join him. The other alternative given was to rot alone for the rest of his life inside that old cell with no choice. He followed the instructor to join the dangerous triads and do evil. He became one of the organization's best assassins, executing tasks with perfection. With this, he received a passport and the dangerous mission of solving a problem in Korea. Upon arriving in the new country, he stained his hands with blood while carrying out yet another of his missions. After the massacre, he managed to contact one of the local leaders of that mafia. He expected to find the big boss, but ended up encountering a brutish idiot. What surprised him most was discovering accounts of an enemy's fighting style. All the clues regarding the injuries and the cleanup of the scenes pointed to the protagonist back in the present. He laments that his trap failed and wonders what would happen now. The boy advises him to live peacefully, since his former allies considered him dead. The redhead bids him farewell, stating that this would be the last time they would see each other and calls him a traitor. He walks away towards the large forest while saying his old code name. The young ex-mercenary smiles slightly and thanks them for the useful information he received there. The red-haired assassin displays a lonely and sad expression as he finally hears the great truth. Time quickly passes and the violent gang continues searching for the boy's body in the turbulent river. The wounded chief shouts furiously, ordering the men not to return without finding the corpse hidden in the bushes. The members of the small gang lament the fall of their young client. The gang leader tries to devise a dangerous plan and decides to call the police for help. Suddenly, the young mercenary himself emerges from the shadows and questions what they are doing there. The timid henchmen get a huge fright, and the boy asks for silence in the middle of that search. The woman says she called several times, and the killer notices many missed calls on his broken screen. The fake nerd's eyes widen in astonishment, fearing the consequences of his long absence. Meanwhile, the enormous dark building rests silently under the glow of the full moon. The undercover guard pressures the mafia leader, questioning whether he merely watched the fight. The red-haired investigator emphasizes the high level of combat, and the mobster says they are looking for him there. Up fears for his young nephew's life and secretly considers calling for reinforcements soon, but the secret agent feels his device vibrate, and his eyes widen as he reads the new message. The boy sends a photo of himself studying at school with friends and lies that he forgot his cell phone. Reading that life-saving message, the two experienced investigators breathed a sigh of relief. Maintaining his mafia disguise, the agent speaks in Chinese, announcing that the enormous problem is over. The redhead angrily reprimands the gang leader, ordering him to do his job properly. Taeseop silently reflects that the fake student has some very dark secrets there. Suddenly, the gang's henchmen are startled to notice someone returning from the darkness. The two undercover investigators are surprised to see that unexpected arrival there. Walking calmly, the dangerous red-haired assassin appears without the company of his target. The mafia boss quickly approaches, wanting to know if the mercenary completed the job. Swarm whispers to his partner that the tense situation has suddenly become much more interesting. The red-haired assassin thinks in Spanish without recognizing those disguised people at the scene. The full moon illuminates the strange facet of that immense, isolated, and abandoned hideout. Taeseop walks confidently towards the newcomer, demanding his full attention. The agent plans the worst, warning that he will kill everyone there if things get out of control. The courageous group of investigators takes a menacing stance for the final showdown. Cuervo is not intimidated and quickly accuses those fake representatives of being mere amateurs. The red-haired investigators' beautiful eyes widen in complete shock at the Spanish language. Acting quickly, the agent lies, saying they were sent there by the great leader Hassan himself. Hearing the name of his dangerous boss makes the redhead's posture change immediately. Taeseop insults the redhead's abilities and questions why Hassan sent someone like that, commanding great respect among mobsters. The investigator demands the killer's name. Keeping his cool, Taeseop asks if the mercenary carried out his mission cleanly. Believing the ruse, the dangerous Cuervo agrees, while the investigators merely stare at him. The agent suggests keeping that meeting secret to avoid problems with the leadership. Ordering his team to withdraw, the disguised guardian thanks the mercenary for his silence. Walking in peace, Taeseop concludes in shock that the boy knows the men of the dangerous Hassan. Meanwhile, the enormous, brightly lit KD club building hides a terrifying criminal leader. A furious monster rants alone, completely frustrated by his visitors leaving. The fearsome boss Raigon curses on the phone, saying he would throw a huge reception for them. Filled with rage, the leader destroys everything around him and insults the representatives of the big mafia. On the other end of the line, the injured man reports that the extensive search for the bodies continues. Rigon loses his patience, believing that the deadly battle was nothing more than a farce on their part. The wounded man recalls the brutal combat assuring that they fought for real in their own language. Overcome with rage at the terrible news, the leader smashes the table in a fit of extreme fury. The imposing monster realizes that his target was deliberately spared throughout the fight. Raigon bitterly deduces that a betrayal destroyed his plans and alerted his enemies. The big boss changes his plans by summoning the henchmen from the other territories. The henchman shouts on the phone, agreeing to gather all the men from the dangerous faction there. Rigon puts his glasses in his jacket, concluding that there is only one way out left for him. Holding a revolver, the violent leader rages, vowing to kill the bastard with his own hands. The following morning, the beautiful sun illuminates the calm and bustling streets of the big city. In the car, the agent hears that the boy definitely visited the faction's base the previous day. The partner wonders about the motive for the attack, fearing that the young man will become involved in a lengthy investigation. Suddenly, the colleague notices the completely destroyed screen of the cell phone in the hands of the big agent. The man is puzzled by the state of the device and curiously asks, what actually happened to the cell phone? Smiling slyly, Tacy replies that he only dropped the device while studying on Sunday. The partner praises the great dedication to studies while the students chat quietly. The man suggests buying a snack for his colleagues, but the guard refuses, mentioning his diet. The car brakes near the curb and Tacyop calls his young prodigy over for a serious talk. Displaying a genuine smile, the guardian assures the student that he can count on him for anything. The young assassin touches the car door handle, seeming quite hesitant with such a gentle gesture. But then the boy breaks into a friendly smile and promises to share his big problems. Walking down the street, the ex-mercenary's expression changes, finding that attitude very suspicious. Suddenly his classmates run towards him shouting his fake name. Resuming his long, standing nerdy disguise, the young man cheerfully waves to his new friends. The chubby boy approaches, sweating, and asks if his bespectacled classmate has a free minute. Observing from the car, the experienced agent thinks the boy is adjusting very well at school. Tazy-up smiles confidently, deciding to wait for the right moment for the young man to open up naturally. The scene cuts to the old sports club shed, isolated on the large high school grounds. Colleagues bow their heads, offering sincere apologies for the enormous misunderstanding earlier. The friend explains that the strong Eugen told the truth about that big confrontation in the shed. The memory shows the moment when the young man pretended to slip, so he wouldn't have to get involved. The ex-mercenary shivers coldly, staring at the girl's photo, fearing his disguise has been revealed. But the friend soon mistakenly concludes that the newcomer didn't try to escape because of pure fear. The young people believe he simply got lost in the hallways while looking for help. Relieved not to have been discovered, the young man scratches his head, feigning shame at the situation. The friend apologizes again for treating the new colleague like a coward in front of her. Fa tries to reassure his friends, who then take the opportunity to invite him out after class. The other colleague smiles excitedly, assuring that he has arranged ample free time for this outing. The boy accepts the invitation, thinking that acting like a normal teenager will help with his disguise. Suddenly, the warehouse door is abruptly opened, accompanied by a very angry question. All the boys in the room get a huge fright from that unexpected interruption in the group. Eugen enters wearing his training clothes and kicks the boys out in a very hostile manner. The ex-mercenary walks with the group in the courtyard until he is surprised by a female voice calling him. The young man turns his face away, confused, waiting to hear what his strong colleague needs to say. The girl gives him a threatening look, demanding that he respond to her messages quickly. Fa feels like she's been taken hostage, while her friends emanate an aura of extreme jealousy. The boys grab their friend a shirt, calling him a traitor for hiding that possible romance. The scene changes to an isolated commercial building on a very sunny and quiet day. In the large office, the redhead presents her reports, and the boss starts laughing. The investigator smiles, holding the tablet, and states that now, finally, all the pieces fit together. The confidential report reveals that the fake student has shady ties to the dangerous Cartel. The huge image with the dark skull proves his past involved with the Ganado group. The pair conclude that the assassin Cuervo and the fake student fought in the same cruel organization. But the boss wonders what the real reason would be for the government to grant him a new citizenship. The clever redhead's eyes widen, deducing that the boy single-handedly took down the old cartel. The investigator sighs, arguing that even with that valuable information from Mexico, the situation was still very tense. She warns that the director will find out everything and suggests reporting the truth before they notice the system intrusion. The chief seriously concludes that if the strict director discovers the truth, he will separate the guardian and the young man immediately. The team regrets the boy will be sent to a dark training regime and will live only as a government spy in the car. The partner reflects that the young man is already used to this life, but is genuinely concerned about the sad guardian. TZ looks out the car window with a tired gaze, reflecting on the immense pain of losing a child. The sad thought of losing him for the second time hurts, while the young assassin smiles, having a lot of fun with his new friends.